a high of 33. Johannesburg, fine, partly cloudy with a high of 30. Vereeniging will be reaching a high of 31. Also fine, but becoming partly cloudy from the afternoon. Mbombela will have similar conditions with isolated afternoon thunder showers, a high of 29 in Mbombela. Bulugwane will be reaching a high of 30 with the exact same conditions as Mbombela. And Mahikeng will be reaching a high of 32. Will be fine, but partly cloudy. Similar in Vryburg, that will be reaching a high of 33. Bloemfontein will be partly cloudy with a high of 31. Kimberley will be fine, becoming partly cloudy with a high of 33, while Uppington will reach a high of 36. Fine weather to be expected there. Cloudy with morning light rain is to be expected in Cape Town, becoming partly cloudy, and you can expect a high of 20 there, moderate to fresh northwesterly wind. George will be reaching a high of 20, cloudy with light rain from the afternoon, a moderate to fresh westerly to southwesterly, becoming light to moderate northwesterly wind from the evening. Gqeberha will be reaching a high of 23 with cloudy weather with fog and drizzle in the morning and evening, otherwise partly cloudy. East London will be reaching a high of 31, partly cloudy, becoming cloudy in the evening. You can expect a moderate northeasterly, becoming moderate to southwesterly from the late afternoon. While Durban will be reaching a high of 28, fine weather to be expected there. Richards Bay will be reaching a high of 32, fine weather in Richards Bay. And Pietermaritzburg, a staggering high of 35, fine weather to be expected there, 18 minutes after 6.
The reality is that 90% of South Africans don't save enough for retirement. This National Seniors Month, why not be part of the 10% who do? Choose an interest rate of up to 11.7% after 60 months with a Nedbank Electronic Optimum Plus account. Anyone 55 and over can open one on the Money app in less than 2 minutes. Go to nedbank.co.za for more info. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The Desert Warriors are looking for their third victory to maintain a 100% winning record. Togo are fighting for their first win after 2 draws in their opening 2 matches. This is the top of the table contest in Group E. Experience the journey to Morocco in the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Algeria versus Togo on Thursday, 10 October at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
20 minutes after 6 o'clock, the rise of right-wing politics across Europe is of concern as its impact is that of backsliding on key democratic principles and democratic gains. Is there a threat of tyranny spreading across Europe? That's what the European Commission had been discussing and pondering on. We make sense of this with Musa this morning. Musa Mdunge is a political analyst based in the University of Dundee in the United Kingdom. Musa, is democracy slipping through the cracks and crevices of Europe?
Thank you for having me. Well, the answer I would give is that it's complicated. It's a mixed story at this point. So when you think of countries such as Hungary, they certainly been
Musa, I'm going to pause you there. I'm just going to put you back. I'm going to pause you there. We can't hear you too clearly. I think you may be using a device that's connected to a Bluetooth device or something of that sort that's causing distortion. Let's try that again. Hopefully, it's a lot clearer.
Okay.
Much better. Go for it.
All right, perfect. Sorry for that. So I said that, the story is a bit of a mixed one. So if you look at countries like Hungary, there's certainly been a complaint about that government's human rights record, both domestically, but also its management of the immigration crisis that is happening all over Europe. And so in many ways, when you think of that particular country and countries such as Italy, we can certainly raise questions about the rise of the far right and also the rise of the threat to conventional politics in Europe at a time where there are so many economic and global issues. And given the rise of these global economic issues, these tensions, it's easy to see how democracies are being tested at such a time as this. And in the case of Europe, countries like Hungary and Italy, as I said, become conventional examples of when those challenges rise and how they challenge the integrity of European integration as has been envisioned since the 1950s.
Yeah. And perhaps to ask this, and in America we can identify the cause of the rise of the right. In other countries across Europe, and I think in this instance Paris is a very good example, France is a very good example, with Marine Le Pen, for instance, being able to attract half the electorate to believe in a politics of extremism, but it's unclear what the buy-in by French voters are into the belief of extremism over there. What is the draw card?
Well, you've got to think about it this way, right? So if you think of countries that are well developed, there's a tendency in countries like that where people are trying to protect their wealth. And in countries like that, they will have a tendency to look towards the right-leaning policies. Right-wing parties tend to have an attraction, a draw card, a populist draw card. So you think of Germany, for example, the rise of Hitler, fascism in Hitler. You think of Italy, the rise of Mussolini. So there's a tendency of far-right parties to rise, particularly in well-developed economies, where on the flip side of that, in developing countries, there's a tendency of the far left. Why? Because you're dealing with a population that does not have much in wealth, that is rather fighting towards wealth accumulation rather than wealth protection. And that is fundamentally the difference between what we are seeing in Europe, in these old established democracies, developed economies, where the rise of the far right seems to be a pattern, as you've so rightly put it, when you think of France, when you think of Italy, even to some extent when you think of the United Kingdom with the rise of the Reform Party. All of these things point to the challenges that these developed countries are facing, where people who are trying to protect wealth are being challenged by the cost of living and other crises, and conventional parties are unable to fit the kind of answers that people need to the problems that they have.
That's a fascinating comparison, particularly when you look at the rich buying into right-wing extremism. But it seems as though the working class is also drawn into that in certain parts of Europe. I don't know if it's true for Hungary as a case study, but certainly it's true for the UK when you see xenophobia being used as a rallying card for working class people to buy into it. They are here to take your jobs. They are here to rape your children. They're here to commit the crimes that will make you unsafe. That seems to be incredibly effective. How widespread is that across Europe, or is it in isolated parts of Europe?
Look, the spread in Europe is quite extensive. I think each country has a degree to which it entertains, far-right ideology. But this is because when politicians frame and try to frame the current condition, they often say, is your life better than it was in the 1970s, during the Cold War? So there's a nostalgia always towards the past. If you think of the United States, that Make America a Great, campaign that has been pushed in many ways, is a campaign that has been replicated by far-right parties and populist parties across Europe. And that is why the Le Pens of this world are a conversation that has been spoken about. That is why even if you think of Meloni in Italy, she is in fact, funny enough, if you look at voter popularity, she's in fact the most popular European leader currently. So there's something to be said, again, about the attractiveness of far-right ideology in Europe.
Yeah. And just lastly, how is this reversible? Does the EU Commission have a sense of how to reverse this?
Well, look, I think the EU Commission is a very, very limited space. This will all boil down to domestic politics and the popularity of domestic leaders. And unfortunately, Macron is challenged in France. Unfortunately, Scholz in Germany is quite weak. And here in UK, we see what's happening with Keir Starmer. So the more conventional parties that sit towards the center keep losing ground in the debate publicly, the harder it's going to be for any European Commission president to be able to bring together Europe around common ideas. And that is the danger for the European Union and the project of European integration. As a case in point of Brexit. Brexit is a classic example of how, when there's a breakdown between what's happening in that local sphere, it influences how the country sees things and their relationship towards Europe.
Yeah, Keir Starmer is a very good example. He is the Labour guy that was meant to be the sensible left-wing progressive, but he approximates closer to the centre. Is there a left-wing in Europe right now?
Is there the left wing? Well, technically, if you look into Germany, some of the left wing parties seem to be more prominent. But at this stage, really, the right wing seems to be winning because Europe is at a place where many people see it as being less influential, less rich than what it used to be. And again, also, if you think about the demographic, it's an older population, and that perhaps also can answer the fervor towards the right and perhaps towards the left. We may see a growth in those parties depending on how much there's a swell of growth in terms of youth activism within politics. And unfortunately, in Europe, that seems to be a dying thing, except for when you look at those major European economies.
Yeah. A very good example of what seems to be sensible left-wing politics breaking away from the chorus of perhaps fearful right-centre politics is Ireland. An example of this is Ireland, for instance, standing up to Israel in ways that its peers and neighbours just aren't. But Ireland is too small a country to influence the political DNA of Europe.
Well, that is debatable over the past, say 10, 20 years, the growth of the Irish economy. It is now, after the Brexit, one of the leading locations for investment in Europe. So it's playing a larger role in terms of driving investment into the European Union. And the faster that Irish economy grows, the more influence it's going to have in the European Union. So there's an expectation that influence will grow, but certainly in terms of foreign policy, that's a tougher position for these countries and the rise of left-leaning parties. And the very fact, as you brought up, Keir Starmer, he's quite stuck. The need to support Israel as a conventional, a long-standing ally, but at the same time, the fact that he's got to nurse progressive interests as well. And there's a challenge for left-leaning parties in terms of that, where right-leaning parties tend to get off in terms of that, and they are not as challenged as much. Again, borrowing from American politics, the reason why there's a critique for Kamala Harris in terms of an Israel position where Trump is not critiqued as much because there's already a set-in, opinion on Trump's foreign policy. Yeah. And so in many ways, right-wing parties, even in Europe, are not given the same level of accountability. And as a result, that is why there is not likely to be a shift in European Union position on the matter in Israel or Hamas until there perhaps is a fundamental swell of moral support from the local population, in the same way, mind you, as apartheid South Africa during the apartheid era. Yeah.
Just a yes or no question on this. We're out of time. Is Ireland the moral center of Europe?
Well, in essence, at this moment, it seems as that, because Ireland is really listening to where the world is going in terms of particularly the Israel-Hamas matter. Yeah. But unfortunately, whether that will extend to the political leadership, I don't believe that influence will be borne. Only the population will really, really bring influence to the political leadership in shifting their moral position on this matter. So it is unlikely to happen.
Musa, thank you so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it. Musa Mdunga is a political analyst based at the University of Dundee in the United Kingdom. When Ireland came to South Africa to play against the Springboks, I had the pleasure of sitting next to the ambassador of Ireland to South Africa, and we had a fascinating conversation about the similarities between Ireland and South Africa, and they're very interested in building that bilateral relationship. And just a week and a half ago or so, Deputy President Paul Mashatile had a working visit to Ireland to discuss economic opportunities. It's fascinating to see where that will go. It's 31 minutes after 6. Let's take your latest headlines.
Good morning. Thanks, Oliver. And the headlines: Eastern Cape Safety MEC Xolile Nqata has commended police for the breakthrough in the fatal shooting of 18 people at Ngobozana village in Lusikisiki. A 45-year-old man appeared in the Lusikisiki Magistrates Court on 18 charges of murder and possession of an unlicensed firearms yesterday. The newly elected City of Tshwane Executive Mayor Dr. Nasipi Moya says restoring the city's finances and service delivery are her main priorities. She was elected yesterday after she clinched 122 votes, while the former mayor Celia Brink, who was removed in a motion of no confidence 2 weeks ago, obtained 86 votes. And Hurricane Milton has slammed into the western coast of Florida. The storm is carrying winds of over 200 kilometers per hour. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Two major backlogs coming in from the southern side to Joburg this morning. One is a stationary truck on the Mike 1 at Crown interchange. That has pushed that busy highway already back deep into Ormonde territory. If you normally swing off the N12 at Uncle Charlie's and pick up the Mike 1, don't do that. Move across to Xavier or preferably Clip River Drive and just run up through Boysons this morning and via Selby. The other issue is a collision on the R59 inbound from the Vaal. That collision just before you get to the Reading interchange, the N12 Reading interchange, and that's pushing traffic back through Michelle and back towards Swat Copies Road. That's a very heavy queue. Durban, a busy start to proceedings on the N2 North. That is already queuing from the M7 up through Spaghetti Junction into the work zone. The N3 is unusually backed up from Spaghetti Junction heading to Pinetown. Looks like an issue around the Pavilion Mall area this morning. And Cape Town, wow, Mitchell's Plain always busy, but this morning it's gone next level. M7, trying to get out of Mitchell's Plain. Queues from the sort of Westgate or Westridge side, right down from sort of Vestport Drive, is where you'll pick the queue up right up through Morgansteer, through Highlands Drive, and up towards the R300 junction. It could be roadworks related. That M7's heavy. The sort of parallel Velta Freden Drive coming off Morgansteer up to Varkensvlei on that side of Mitchell's Plain, equally as heavy as the M7. So two big queues that side of town this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai is here with the sports up. Zai, I think the Protea women's can win this T20 World Cup. Yesterday I saw the highlight. I didn't get to watch the game. I saw the highlight reel. My goodness. Wow, what a team. And I've been a believer of this team for a little while, actually, since the Test World Cup 2 years ago where they crashed out and didn't do so well. But there were a couple of players that really stood out for me that I thought, man, if they just get a chance and stick to this plan that they have going, they can get it. They can get it. And yesterday, that was a clear sign they're there.
They're on fire. I think it's game on, Oliver, for the Proteas women. 80-run demolition of Scotland. Yes, they're cruising their way into the semi-finals. And it's the Proteas women. They've moved to the top now of Group B of this T20 World Cup. They had a bowling attack led by Nonkululeko Mhlaba, 3 for 12, skittling Scotland just 86 runs. And then we also had Laura Wolfart becoming South Africa's highest T20 run scorer, contributing 40 of 27 balls in a 64-run opening stand with Tasman Brits. Marizanne Kapp adding 43 of 24 balls, helping the Proteas to 166 for 5. They face Bangladesh next in a must-win group match, and that's on Saturday. More cricket, rookie all-rounder Nitesh Kumar Reddy smashed 74 and took 2 wickets to help India beat Bangladesh by 86 runs for a series-clinching win in the second T20 International yesterday. Soccer, Algeria will be targeting a perfect start in their AFCON qualifying campaign when they take on Togo, and that's in Annaba this evening at 9 p.m. The host Algeria won the first 2 matches in Group E against Equatorial Guinea and Liberia and are currently sitting at the top of the standings with 6 points. In the meantime, Namibia and Zimbabwe will kick off proceedings in a highly anticipated Group J clash, all happening at Orlando Stadium this afternoon, 3 p.m. Namibia commenced their 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying bid on a bad note following 2 consecutive defeats to Cameroon and Kenya. And after their 2-1 defeat to Kenya at Orlando Stadium, Colin Benjamin's troops dropped down to 4th, and that was in Group J, while Zimbabwe's fortunes in AFCON qualification have been better than that of Namibia's. The Warriors, they remain without a victory after 2 matches played. Onto athletics, and the South African marathon record holder Gerda Steyn is determined to push her own limits and break her national record once again. In 2023, Steyn set a new South African best of 2 hours, 24 minutes and 3 seconds at the Valencia Marathon. Speaking to SABC Sport, Steyn acknowledged the rising competition amongst local runners and the possibility that her record could be broken.
Already, the ladies who's running the marathons now is getting closer and closer to the record time. So it's very exciting. And to me personally, I also feel like I've got room for improvement. So for as long as I possibly can, I'll keep pushing and I'll keep trying to improve my own time. Whether that means it's the national record or it's not anymore, I'll still try my best to improve on that time. For now, luckily, it's still in my name. So I'll try to defend that sort of title also for as long as I possibly can, but to know that there is more talent coming through is very, very exciting, I believe. So it's something that our country has been waited for quite a long time to see that sort of depth that we have got now.
That's the South African marathon record holder Gerda Steyn on the morning brief. More sport, top of the hour for SFM. I'm Zai Khan.
There's sponsoring a news feature. Then there's helping your clients make the news. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking to see how far they can take your business.
The Business Update on SAFM.
8:38 minutes after 6 o'clock, and Darling is here with the first business update of the morning. And Darling, we start with what could be very concerning news. That speech was very anticipated, and now we hear that the Fed was divided on whether there should be a 50 basis point rate cut. What does that spell for the market and perhaps for the next cycle of rate adjustments?
So what we can confirm is that everyone was in agreement when it comes to cutting rates. It was just the pace of at which they cut rates by. Those are minutes revealing that policymakers, agreed that it was time to cut rates, but at odds over how much they should reduce rates by. Ultimately, only one member of the Fed voted against the big rate cut, opting for a more conservative approach with a 25 basis point reduction. This was the first time in 18 years that a top official at the Fed disagreed with the group's decision on interest rates. Really a surprise move here, as the central bank is known for its unity when it comes to monetary policy decisions. Now, big rate cuts are usually done when there are concerns about the economy slowing. In the minutes, policymakers affirmed that this wasn't the case. The Fed said it was adjusting its monetary policy because inflation had decreased significantly since 2022 and 2023, edging closer to its 2% target. The central bank calls this move a recalibration, fine-tuning its approach to keep the economy stable and growing. This is notable because the economy is still doing relatively well, but the Fed wants to ensure that it stays on track. The minutes also revealed that officials remain data dependent, saying the cutting cycle will continue as long as inflation declines and the labor market stays strong. What's up for discussion here is the pace at which they'll be cutting.
Yeah, and the U.S. government weighs up breaking up Google. Is it one of those too big to fail situations? Google has appeared before congressional committees a million times over the last decade, and there's been talks about whether or not it is too big for a democracy to handle.
Yes, it's also been dealing with antitrust cases in Europe as well, paying really hefty fines. Now, the US taking a big step again towards reining in Google's dominance in the online search market in particular. The Department of Justice has proposed breaking up Google due to its monopoly, aiming to promote fair competition and prevent the tech giant from abusing its power. Now, Google's monopoly has been a subject of concern for regulators for many years. The company's exclusive contracts with other tech giants like Apple have made it the default search provider on smartphones and web browsers. This has left consumers with limited choices in the search engine market. To address this issue, the government has proposed several solutions, including forcing Google to sell off parts of its business. Another proposal is to prevent Google from using its products to favor its search engine over others. For instance, Chrome would no longer automatically route search engines through Google. Additionally, the government suggests allowing websites to opt out of Google's AI features. This would give websites more control over how their content is used and prevent Google from exploiting its dominance in AI. In the meantime, Alphabet disagrees with the proposal. The company argues that breaking it up would harm consumers, businesses, and American competitiveness. And so Google plans to appeal the decision. This case has far-reaching implications for the tech industry, and the outcome will also just set precedent for other big tech companies facing similar antitrust issues. Companies like Amazon, Alphabet, Meta, and Ticketmaster also facing similar issues.
Yeah, when I was in primary school, there were two search engines that were bigger than Google. The first was Microsoft Encyclopedia. I don't know if you know and remember that one. And the other was Yahoo. I haven't seen or heard or used Yahoo in probably a decade. It's gone.
You know what surprises me is that some people still use their Yahoo email.
I still have a Yahoo email address.
You're revealing your age.
Look, I'm not as bad. Mdu uses a Hotmail email, so that's retirement age email addresses. Let's take a look at the market indicators. How did it close up yesterday?
So starting in Wall Street, markets ending the day in the green, with the S&P 500 and Dow Jones Industrial Average closing at record highs. Investors digesting those Fed minutes and eyeing today's inflation print. Back at home, we had a mixed finish, with the downbeat sentiment around China's stimulus package weighing on the local market. The all-share edged lower, closing 0.1% in the red. The downbeat sentiment also weighing on the rand, the local unit sitting at around 17.61 to the dollar. Over in Asia, markets ticking higher, with Chinese markets also recovering. Traders there also digesting those all-important Fed minutes.
Yeah, darling, thank you so much. We'll take up that in the next hour once again. On the other side of this, we speak to the NPA.
There's listening to the news, then there's making the news. Grow your business into the next big thing with Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking.
The NPA has announced the arrest a very short while, yesterday actually, of a person in connection to the Lusikisiki trial, and that is an important development in the trial, very specifically because this particular person has been out on murder before, has been convicted rather on murder before, and is once again now charged with murder, this time with 18 counts of murder. This person, and very importantly, was also charged with and convicted for escaping from a legal facility, and that is a very serious charge. So we'll get more information from the NPA on that in a very short while.
When you choose Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking, you get access to our business solar loans. Accessing our business solar loans means you get connected to the right supplier for your business and the most feasible tailor-made financing solution. And that financing solution means 8,760 hours of uninterrupted power for your business, sourced directly from the African sun. You see, there's going green. Then there's going green with us. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Let's have a listen at your WhatsApp voice notes that's come through on the show thus far.
Good morning, this is Derek from Mhlanga. Listening to your guest, if I got him right, suggesting right-wing in Europe is popping up all over the place to protect their wealth. I would say they are popping up to protect their culture.
Hey, Baba, you know, this is politics. Now, what I've come to realize is that the DA is playing a game. All those parties in the GNU are DA. They'll pretend not to They just have left the ANC, the DA, they have left 1, 2, 3, 4, but they are the DA. The DA is still with its own people, with its own parties in the GNU. The ANC in state has left its own people outside the GNU. That's what is happening. That's politics. Hallelujah.
Thank you very much for that. We'll continue to take your reactions throughout the show. The NPA has announced the arrest of a person in connection with the mass murder in Lusikisiki. We speak to the NPA regional spokesperson in the Eastern Cape, Luxolo Tyali. Luxolo, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. What can you tell us at this stage about the arrest of Sipho Soxolo, who is a 45-year-old man previously convicted for murder, who was out on parole and now potentially have murdered again and is in police custody. Do you know anything about his parole conditions?
At the moment, we have requested the Department of Correctional Services to provide us with the report that we wish to use when we entertain his bail application next Tuesday. So all the details about his conditions and how much was left of his sentence will be in that report.
And when are you expecting that report?
We are expecting it before his next court appearance, which is why we postponed for 7 days so that we can do further criminal profiling of him and also get that report from Correctional Services. So by the time he appears in court next Tuesday, we should be having that report.
Yeah. What was the link that led to his specific arrest?
If you remember, after the incident, the massacre, the police went all out to investigate and had a few people of interest, which led to the confusion that happened on Monday, where 3 people were taken in for questioning. And following the questioning of these people, the police were able to link this one particular person to the commission of the crime. And the investigations are still ongoing, so we're not ruling out if there'll be more arrests, but the police investigations are still ongoing.
Was Sipho Soxolo one of the 3 people arrested, or did the arrest of those 3 people and the questioning of them lead to the arrest of Sipho Soxolo after the fact?
Sipho Soxolo was arrested on Monday, not over the weekend, so he was not amongst the 3 people.
Right, and so he was then. There was a link between him and the 3 people. Are we understanding that correctly?
We can just say the police investigations were able to link him to the crime, because I don't want to divulge the way the police are conducting their investigations.
Yeah, the 3 people that were arrested on Saturday, have they been released or are they still in police custody?
The 3 people are in police custody because they were arrested for possession of illegal firearms.
Right.
And then they were questioned because they were arrested in the same vicinity in Lusikisiki for the possession of the illegal firearms. But then further investigations could not link them to the commission of the crime where the 18 people were murdered.
So they are not charged yet in relation to the Lusikisiki mass murder?
No, they are charged only in relation to the possession of illegal firearms.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Luxolo. Really do appreciate it. Luxolo Tyali is the NPA regional spokesperson in the Eastern Cape. It is 10 minutes before 7.
Muvhango returns for an explosive new season on SABC2. A renaissance of new beginnings, intrigue, and drama with old enemies and new characters. Catch the rebirth season of Muvhango every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. on SABC2 or stream it on SABC Plus. Muvhango, ukovela panda. SABC2.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
EFC 118 promises to be one of the most scintillating fight nights in recent memory, with two standout matchups. Fresh off his incredible run in The Ultimate Fighter, Rody Roots battles for the interim featherweight strap against deadly kickboxing specialist Ayanda Zwane, whilst the co-main event witnesses the return of the one and only Martin the Punisher Van Staden, who takes on fellow veteran Hanru the Bully Boda. EFC 118 from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Two very heavy backlogs coming to Joburg from the south. One is a stationary truck on the Mike One at Crown. That traffic just continues to get worse all the way back through to Monday. The side roads are now fairly heavily jammed, including the Crownwood side and also the Boyson side up into Selby. So very heavy on the highway, and already a lot of alternative route seekers jamming those local alternatives. R59 is dreadful for motorists coming in from the Vala crash, but just before the N12 Reading interchange, and that is pushing traffic deep back through Swadcopies Road. You might want to off-ramp at Clip River Drive and look for some alternative routes through that area on your way to Joburg this morning. Durban, the crash at Pavilion Mall, that has been cleared, so that's releasing traffic heading out towards Pinetown. And a crash at Cliffdale on your way to Durban is also just being cleared, so that backlog south of Hammersdale should be starting to move on. Cape Town, just an update on Mitchell's Plain. It was overnight roadworks, as we thought, on the M7 at the R300. That's done all the damage this morning. Jake Scoville coming out of Mitchell's Plains, a heavy backlog right back down to sort of Westport Drive territory. Routes like Morgansteer and Highlands Drive getting into the M7 are heavily backed up, and the alternative Velter-Vreden Drive that comes up from Morgansteer up through towards the Varkensvlei to that Philippi area. Very heavy backlogs, again, with just alternative volumes trying to get through and beat the M7 and just creating an additional backlog of traffic. So very heavy out of that side of Mitchell's Plain. N7, Jake Scoville Drive section, that's worth a mention. It's already queuing from France Conradi through Goodwood towards Fort Trekker Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
The world's best football league makes its return to S3. Will Arsenal finally win their first title since 2004? Or will Man City continue their dominance of the league and win their 7th title under Pep Guardiola? Will the Dutchmen in Erik ten Hag and Arne Slot have something to say as Man United and Liverpool step in to contest for the title? But it's not only about winning the title. For some of the 20 teams, it's a chance to improve on their performances from last season. While for others, it's the battle to avoid relegation and stay in the top flight. Every team has a point to prove. This is not just football. This is a masterpiece being played out every weekend. Channel your best sport with the English Premier League. Saturdays at 3 p.m. on S3. Open up.
This summer, we have extra large offers on Ford Ranger XL, XLT and Wildtrak from only $481,900 for a Ranger XL single cab 4x2. It's the extra large Ranger offer from only $481,900. Visit your nearest participating Ford dealer. Optional service plan included. While stocks last. TNCs apply.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
Meat importers and exporters are concerned after the Border Management Authority had introduced, or at least had expanded the requirements around veterinary testing of meat products coming into the country. It usually just would be a small sample size of each batch or container. It now is, according to meat importers, a significant portion of the imports that are being tested. And this has caused delays from getting the imports processed within 48 hours at port to now being processed within 8 to 9 days, adding additional costs, they say, and more importantly, causing significant delays. This means that, according to them, the prices are transferred onto you and I, consumers of meat products and protein products. We now speak to the CEO of the Association of Meat Importers and Exporters, Imamaleng Mutibe. Imamaleng, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. What is the reason for the expansion on veterinary testing that was introduced by the Border Management Authority? Do you have a sense of it?
Good morning, and thanks for having us. I think when new entities come into play, they look at issues in different ways, and I guess it was a way of improving enforcement on imports coming into the country for a variety of reasons. Where our issue comes in is when you bring in extra requirements that do not come with matched resources to deliver that, because then that impacts on the entire value chain up to the product arriving at the table of the consumer. And that is where our biggest issue is, that if these regulations are necessary, as indicated, they should be matched with requisite resources. Because remember, as meat importers, we're dealing with perishable products. And it is important to maintain the integrity of the cold chain.
Who does the inspections? Vets working for the state, or do importers have to appoint vets themselves?
It's vets for the state.
Right. Are there enough
That's
vets for the state? Are there enough vets for the state?
Definitely not, because if there were, then we wouldn't be having these issues.
Right. What is the recommendation of the Association of Meat Importers to cut down this significant delay?
We're recommending that BMA reverts to the original rules that were in place, and which enabled the product to move swiftly until such time that they have sufficient requisite resources to match these new requirements.
Right. Is there an appetite by the BMA? Have you, as importers, engaged them on this matter?
Yes, we have been engaging with BMA on this matter since the inception. In March, we had to go to court on the same matter to enforce that to address the impact that this is having on meat trade. And the judgment, we succeeded in that application. The judgment clearly indicated that they may impose these revised measures, but only following a proper risk assessment. And therefore, what they needed to provide is the criteria around this risk assessment so that all parties affected fully understand what is involved. The impact of this on meat trade and on the businesses itself is, if you don't know what the risk is that BMA sees in the activities of the importers, it's not easy to address any of those issues.
What was supposed to be the impact of the May judgment? Was there an order associated to it that had mandated the BMA to immediately revert to the previous regulations?
It was the BMA was supposed to develop a risk assessment.
So in the interim, what was the position?
It's not available at this point. That's why we are.
No. I mean, what is the testing position in the interim?
It's random. Sometimes it's 100%. Sometimes it's 30%, 1%. When we complain, if we make a lot of noise, it goes down to reasonable 10% or so. After a few weeks, it reverts to whatever.
Yeah, not to
inspectors feel like.
Yeah, not to impugn your legal strategy, but surely you guys should have gotten an interim order mandating that the previous regulations be used pending the finalization of the regulations and risk assessments by the BMA.
Yes, but remember, I guess the judge also needed to consider that this entity is coming in new, and they assumed that they are working on those processes. But clearly, if we are in October today, and we have asked on several occasions for the BMA to provide us with this risk assessment so that we can also manage our risks, especially with our importing partners.
Yeah.
So clearly it's not in place, and we have requested on a number of occasions. It hasn't come through.
Just a yes or no answer on this. Are you considering going back to court?
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. That is Imamaleng Mutibe, who's the CEO of the Association of Meat Importers and Exporters. It's a minute after 7 o'clock. Let us take your latest bulletin.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, Eastern Cape Police praised for breakthrough in Lusikisiki mass shooting, and Hurricane Milton makes landfall in Florida. Good morning. The Eastern Cape Safety Emisi Xolile has commended police for the breakthrough in the fatal shooting of 18 people at Ngobozana village in Lusikisiki. A 45-year-old man appeared in the Lusikisiki Magistrates Court on 18 charges of murder and possession of unlicensed firearms yesterday. The case was remanded to next week for a bail application. The MEC spokesperson Makaya Komisa elaborates.
MEC Ngata commends police for arresting this suspect accused of committing this heinous crime. The Honorable MEC hopes that the arrest of this man will lead to a successful prosecution so that the families of the 18 victims can find closure and justice. The MEC also wants to send a strong message to the criminals that no amount of criminality will deter the government and police from the mission of creating safer communities in the province.
The newly elected City of Tshwane Executive Mayor, Dr. Nosipi Moya, says restoring the city's finances and service delivery are her top priorities. Moya was elected yesterday after she clinched 122 votes, while former Mayor Celia Brink, who was removed in a motion of no confidence 2 weeks ago, obtained 86 votes. Moya says the new executive will have to review the city's funding plan to rehabilitate the city's finances.
When we approved the budget, it was approved with the funding plan. So that funding plan was endorsed by National Treasury. However, one thing we've noted is that there's the slow in terms of us getting the revenue in. Obviously, when the executive comes in, one of the things that we need to focus on is to review the funding plan, both the implementation of it and also whatever gaps that we can identify in the funding plan. But I am confident that with that funding plan as the base, we will be able to improve and move from that.
The High Court in Polokwane, Limpopo will this morning hear an appeal by the state against pig farmer Zechariah Olafir. It follows a ruling made by the Mankweng Magistrates Court in September, where it granted Olafir's lawyers access to written statements and a document and a docket. Olafir's defense lawyers had argued their client signed those documents under duress from the police following his arrest and that of his two accomplices. Katlego Nyoni reports.
Olafir, along with two accused, William Musora and Rudolph Devet, allegedly signed the statements after they were arrested in August. This follows the discovery of the remains of two women, Maria Makato and Kuzai Ndlovu, in a pigsty in Onverwacht outside Polokwane. The application by the defense lawyers for Devet and Musora to gain access to the same documents was, however, denied by the Mankweng Magistrates Court. The bail application will be heard by the same court in November.
More than 30 learners from Makahlule Primary School outside Malamulele, Limpopo have been taken to hospital due to suspected food poisoning. According to some parents, the learners started vomiting during school hours yesterday. They had eaten food prepared for the nutrition program as well as buying from vendors. The learners were taken to a local clinic and later transferred to the Malamulele hospital. Education authorities are yet to comment on the incident. The Department of Water and Sanitation says it has detected the presence of cholera in the Vaal and Harts rivers in the northwest and northern Cape. The department has advised communities along the Harts and Vaal rivers from Christiana downstream to be careful when using raw, untreated water from the rivers. The tests were collected last month during a routine raw water sampling from 5 sites. The department spokesperson Bisani Mabasa elaborates.
During the raw water routine sampling in September, water from 5 sites, which are Wetzel Dam, Swizer-Reneke, Christiana, Buckley West, Caravan Park, and Douglas Weir, indicated the presence of cholera. Communities are advised not to drink or come into contact with the raw water from these rivers. A follow-up sampling on the rivers is in process and will indicate the extent and the area of caution. Communities under the Dr. Ruth Khomotse Mompati, Francis Bart, Pixley Kaseme, district municipalities and the water services authorities around the area have been requested to take extra care in the water treatment processes.
And finally, Hurricane Milton has slammed into the western coast of Florida. It has struck Siesta Key south of the city of Tampa. The storm is carrying winds of over 200 kilometers per hour. Bridges have been closed due to fears of a 4-meter storm surge. The sheriff of St. Lucie County on the East Coast has confirmed multiple fatalities. The Florida State Governor, Ron DeSantis, says the time for safe evacuation had passed. He's warned those who remained against going outside until officials tell them to do so.
You have to shelter in place and just hunker down. Category 3 storm for most places in Florida, particularly newer construction. Likely the building is going to be able to withstand it. But if you start to get in a situation where trees are snapping, power's popping, you do have to treat it like a tornado. Stay inside and stay off the roads.
Recapping the top story, the Eastern Cape Safety MEC Xolile Nqata has commended police for the breakthrough in the fatal shooting of 18 people at Ngobazana village in Lusikisiki. A 45-year-old man appeared in the Lusikisiki Magistrates Court yesterday. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out. Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from 3 Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
None of the insurance companies has come near to the price I'm paying. I am happy at Outsurance. I'm going nowhere.
SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote that could save you hundreds every month. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Still very heavy on the R59 into Joburg coming in from the Vaal. It's been quite a big crash scene just up by the N12 Reading interchange, and that traffic stays heavily back through Michelle, back through Swakoppies and getting back towards Clip River Drive. So it's a situation that's deteriorating. Come off at Clip River Drive. That'll be about the last chance before you're in the thick of it. The Mike 1 stays heavy now from Ormonde right through to about Parktown's Oxford Road. So really jammed up through the Crown interchange. And on top of all the traffic light faults around the Four Ways area, once you sort of get past those, you've got some very heavy traffic coming into Bryanston. So if you like southern side of the N1 routes like Main Road, extending queues right down into sort of Sloane Street, Bryanston Drive territory, and William Mandela queuing through the highway and then down into that sort of Bryanston Drive junction as well today. Lights around in Pretoria out by Silver Oaks on Solomon Mshlungu, so that's causing 1 or 2 delays. Durban, there's been quite a big crash on Inanda Road by China Mall. If you're on the run in from Newlands through Parlock, that's quite heavy this morning. And Cape Town's Mitchell's Plain, really gridlock. Some overnight roadworks overran into this morning's peak on the M7 near the R300, so that's heavily backed up. And probably even worse is the side road, the parallel Velta Freedom Drive. That's dreadful, coming from sort of Westgate side all the way up through to Philippi. Motorists avoiding the M7 and creating a secondary jam on that Velta Freedom Road option. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports Headlines, soccer. The Ballon d'Or nominee Ronwen Williams is rallying the home crowd to get behind Bafana Bafana. And we have cricket with the Proteas women's all-round effort keeping their semi-final hopes alive after an 80-run victory over Scotland. Details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It is 10 minutes after 7 o'clock. We're going to be speaking to the newly elected mayor of the city of Tshwane, Dr. Nasipi Moya, in a very short while. A little bit later on in this hour, we're going to be in conversation with SATU. They have expressed concerns after the Competition Commission had released a report on food prices, raising serious concerns about households being able to stay up to par with earnings, being able to stay up to par with food prices, and it's not coming down sufficiently. The Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs has urged the Department of Home Affairs to address what is a significant capacity challenge at the Tshwane Refugee Reception Centre, such as staff shortages, which had led to a tragic stampede incident that happened there in August. They had embarked on an oversight visit. The portfolio chairperson will be speaking to me in this hour. Give us a call, 086 000 2032. It's 11 minutes after 7. Let's get into the morning brief.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Bafana Bafana and the Congolese troops are all looking for their second victory in Group K. Bafana Bomzanzi Africa say they will take full control at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, while the green, yellow and red want to raise their country's flag with 3 points. This is the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Experience the journey to Morocco, South Africa versus Congo Brazzaville on Friday, 11 October at 6:30 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Morning Brief, weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Yesterday, Action SA's Dr. Nasipi Moya was voted in as the new mayor of the city of Tshwane following the ousting of Celia Brink as the mayor of the city of Tshwane. She now joins me. Dr. Moya, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. You're not a newcomer in the city of Tshwane. You've been there since about 2016, first in an administrative capacity working in the office of the chief whip, and then now having served prior to this appointment as the deputy mayor in the city of Tshwane. So you have a sense of the issues there. We don't need to belabor them here, but some issues do stand out. The city owes Eskom 6.8 billion rather. It owes municipal workers R1 billion, and it has irregular expenditure in excess of 13 billion rand. It is financially defunct, so to speak. How do you plan on turning this around? Mayor? I think you may have muted yourself there, Mayor Moya. Can you just maybe unmute yourself?
My apologies. Apologies. Good morning to you and the listeners of SAFM. I think, yes, I've been in the city before. Yes, as you say, we don't belabor the point, and exactly the reason why we've started this conversation to say maybe a change of hand or leadership in the city is required because of these issues. So the first thing is that, just to add on what you are saying, currently the budget that we have in the city is unfunded, and while we have a funding plan that was endorsed by the National Treasury, which is basically where we need to start, that already a credible institution like National Treasury has endorsed a funding plan, but with the past few months we've seen that the collection is very erratic. It's not sustainable, which means the funding plan has not really scratched where where it itches. So where we're going to start, which is something that I even briefed the city manager on, let's get the true state of affairs in the city of Tshwane, where we understand exactly where we are with the funding plan, where the interventions that we needed to do, how are they working. But we already know that the collection in the city is not well doing well, mainly because there are residents who have resigned, with paying their bills, because they're saying that we are billing them on estimates and not actuals. And as a low-hanging fruit, we're saying there's no need to bill people on estimates. I know this is a problem for all municipalities, but that's a low-hanging fruit. The other one is that we know that our losses, so if you look at our revenue losses on the side of water and electricity, AG even flagged this with us. It's because people are connecting themselves to our grid, so they're not paying for electricity. And also in terms of sewer and water, they're also doing the same thing. And I'm very excited about the agreement that we are signing with the Minister of Police later on, because we need to tackle that criminal element that is compromising our fiscus in the city. The other one which requires a policy intervention is that in the city, especially during after COVID, the number of informal settlements that we've had, they more than doubled. We have more than 520 informal settlements in the city. Most of them, because now they are not formalized. Now we are unable to give them services and make them pay for those services. And nothing stops us in the legislation that we, even though we don't formalize them, that we give people prepaid meters, because if you don't do that, they're going to connect themselves anyway. They are used, there are areas where they buy transformers. So I'm saying when it comes to the way we start is just the basics. We need to build the fiscus. Let's get the true state of financial affairs and say where the interventions were supposed to be made, where are we progressing, and where are the challenges currently. And that's something that's going to happen as soon as the political executive is announced next week.
You and I will have a more extensive conversation on that and get into the minutiae of it. But right now, we don't have much time. I do want to ask one more question. You have an incredibly impressive CV, a master's degree in public policy and administration. You're well equipped for this, it seems. But it's your PhD that stood out for me. I read an excerpt of it last night in preparation for this, focusing on the negotiated nation, evaluating nation building in the post-apartheid South Africa. You're part of a coalition government that many say is incredibly precarious. In 1 minute, tell us why perhaps the reflection of your dissertation has given you the right set of tools for this moment.
Yeah, I think one thing, the city needs to be united as much as South Africa needs to be united. So when we say that, so part of the findings in that dissertation is that for us to build this nation, we need radical reforms more than the symbolic ones. We're doing well with the symbolic reforms, but the radical ones are the ones that are going to lead to a reduction of inequality. And I think for me, that is what we need to focus.
Oh, Dr. Moya, we seem to have lost you there. My goodness, apologies for that. Dr. Moya, who's now the mayor of the city of Tshwane. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I really do appreciate it. We now speak next to the United Civil Society. They call for the Minister of Trade and Industry to dissolve the National Lottery Commission.
Outsurance definitely understands the nature of our business. Being properly insured is extremely important to the success of our business.
They come to the party very quickly, resolve things.
Action speak much louder than words. Outsurance have shown us nothing but action.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
CAF President Dr. Patrice Motsepe said, the exponential growth and global competitiveness of football in Africa has resulted in substantial interests from major African and international broadcasters in African football. SABC has been participating competitively in the CAF media rights bids. CAF welcomes them as partners, joining a number of CAF's media rights holders. We are committed to ensuring that CAF's competitions, including its broadcast products, are world-class.
You are listening to the Morning Brief.
It is 19 minutes after 7 o'clock. The United Civil Society in Action has asked for the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Pak Stau, who is the political authority over the National Lotteries Commission, to dissolve it immediately. Why? One of the things they criticize is that the commission had transferred 300 million rand to the National Treasury. They said this is illegal. Tebogo Sitatu, who's the chairman of the civil society unit, joins us now. Tebogo, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Why was that transfer of 300 million to the National Treasury illegal?
And good morning to the listeners. Yes. Of SAFM. It was illegal because of it is not in line with the National Lotteries Act. And in their own admission, the board and the chairperson and the executive have actually apologized to the portfolio committee meeting on the 18th of September. We were there present, and unfortunately we had warned them a year earlier on in July last year about this, even before it happened, and they went on anyway, so they must leave. They are incompetent.
Yeah. Why did, I mean, parenthetical, but why did the National Treasury accept the payment if it was illegal?
Well, there's another thing, my brother, that we need to find out what actually happened. We might actually be shocked that this money didn't even reach Treasury. So I would encourage us, ourselves as civil society, as well as the portfolio committee, to wish their account to check and to do a forensic on that 300 million that has alleged gone to Treasury. We may find that it didn't go there because of good question. Why would Treasury pressure them to do something that is illegal? But there was an issue on legal opinions here, but they did actually eventually commission two, that is the NLC, two legal opinions, one of them involving Patlenda. We know how highly we respect him in this country as a legal mind. And both of them came out positive in what we had warned them not to do, not to transfer that money. It's illegal.
Yeah. Are you asking for the minister to dissolve the Lotteries Commission or the board of the Lotteries Commission?
No, the board. The board.
Right.
We need the commission. We need the commission for poor black South Africans in their majority who actually, this 300 million also, Oliver, we must state it clearly. It's not from Treasury. So it's not like the National Lotteries Commission didn't spend this money and Treasury was kind of punishing them to say, you got to we're taking it back. You know, it comes from poor black people who are hoping to become multimillionaires because of the poverty state in this country. And then you take that money, instead of reinvesting it back into communities through NGOs, you take it to Treasury for what?
Yeah.
And we need to find out.
Yeah, boards sometimes make mistakes. It is a good thing if those mistakes or transgressions rather are reversible. This seems like a reversible one. Doesn't seem to meet the threshold of gross negligence that would be able to give the minister the power to dissolve the board. The minister can't, for arbitrary reasons, unilaterally dissolve the board. They could challenge that legally in court.
Yes. So let me stop you right there. There is gross mismanagement and malfeasance at the National Lottery. This is just the tip of the 300 million issue. Is the tip of the iceberg. They have transferred the 300 million. They have spent close to 80 million on the RFP for the license process. They have spent on one catering for the RFP over 100,000 for food. So they've spent 40 million, over 50 million for the renovation of SAP's offices, South African Bureau of Standards. So this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
There's many things going wrong in there. They spent close to over 70 million on investigations.
Yeah. How many of these transactions were approved at board level?
A few of them, if any. But what the picture that is we have proof is that there is mismanagement and gross mismanagement, not just mismanagement, but also let's talk about this board. The other reason why we're asking for the board to be dissolved is illegal. Patel, the former minister, had handpicked his own people. There was no transparency. This is a state institution that is for development. So the public ought to be involved in this kind of things. You can't just cherry pick your friend to be board member.
Yeah, we are going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Tebogo. Really do appreciate it. Tebogo Sitatu is the chairperson of the United Civil Society in Action. So just about 25 minutes after 7 o'clock, let's speak to the Portfolio Committee chairperson on Home Affairs.
You are listening to the Morning Brief.
The Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs visited the Tshwane Refugee Reception Centre as an oversight visit following a tragic incident that took place there in August, a stampede. They found, amongst other things, that there are severe staff shortages and capacity problems, and they urge Home Affairs to address this immediately. Chairperson Musa Chabane joins us now. Musa, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Give us the extent of the capacity problems that you had found in your oversight visit.
Good morning to you, and thanks for inviting us and our listeners. The Portfolio Committee, as you have indicated, conducted oversight at the Refugee Centre, just broadly to look on the operations, the staff capacity, and also the challenges that the centre is facing. You recall that we're approaching the establishment of the one-stop border post, and this is important that we get a sense as the new committee. We have found that there's a capacity, a shortfall of staff, and there's huge backlog in terms of processing application.
Yeah. Do you have a sense of if the shortage of staff is due to unfilled vacancies or whether this has been a persisting problem throughout?
Well, I think the shortage of staff as a result of budget cuts that have impacted all departments, and the refugee centre is one of the institutions that has suffered a blow around that subject matter. So this is an area which we're going to engage with the minister because of the load of work that is surrounding the institution. So those are the areas that we've identified. But overall, the issues of the corrupt activities that have been highlighted in the sixth administration, which there was an initiative to investigate all the corrupt activities within the institutions. Those are some of the issues which the Portfolio Committee will be interacting with the minister.
Yeah. Does the Portfolio Committee have a view on ramifications following that stampede in August?
Correctly, that was among the issues that were subject for observation. You recall that the Portfolio Committee summoned the Minister and the Director General to get a sense in terms of their intervention. We're happy that there was an investigation that is going on, and once that's been concluded, the Portfolio Committee will have a detailed brief in the time frame that we've outlined so that the minister briefed the committee in relation to the incident that have happened. But at least there's a caution at the level of the management of the institution so that this incident does not recur again.
Yeah. The committee would have considered the budget tabled by the Department of Home Affairs, and of course that budget is associated with different programs. Where are some of the big deficiencies in the budget of the department that could be reprioritized in the view of the committee to best effectively address capacity shortages, not just at the Tshwane Refugee Centre, but also at the one in the Eastern Cape?
Well, if you followed all the debates of the security cluster, and also in particular Home Affairs and members of the committee contributed and raised concern in terms of budget cuts that affects programs of the Department of Home Affairs. They've highlighted and incited the Border Management Authority as one of the critical institutions that Parliament has established, and this contribute negatively to slow progress and affect their service delivery. So those are some of the areas that we've raised with the minister, and as an engagement with the National Treasury to respond to these issues that we've raised in terms of budget cut in relation to the 5 ports. There's 5 refugee centers located in the country, including the Border Management Authority, and some of the areas, for example, the issue of the ICT that we need to would assist the Department of Home Affairs to advance and services our people.
Yeah. Just lastly, when is the DG and the ministers scheduled to appear before the committee?
We're currently in the oversight, and once they finalize the investigation in relation to the refugee center, which is a priority that we've taken a decision on, including the issue that we've interacted with yesterday, a government printing works, the issues that are coming out, will then schedule the minister, and I think we'll able to, once we've scheduled the minister, the interactions, you'll able to know as a media community.
Yeah. And when does the oversight end, and what is the next oversight stop?
Today we are going to conduct oversight at the Independent Electoral Commission, engage with the executive in terms of the work, the annual performance plan, the financial status of the institution, and tomorrow we are going to end in Lindela to conduct oversight there. And I think that will be the end of the oversight from the committee of portfolio committee of Home Affairs. Then overall, will then the committee deliberate and take decisions in terms of priority areas to complement the work of the executive.
Yeah, Musa Chabane, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. The chairperson of the portfolio committee on Home Affairs. It is 7:30. Let's take your latest headlines.
Good morning. Thanks, Oliver. In the headlines, the city of Tshwane is asking users of the Tshwane bus services to make alternative travel arrangements. This after the bus service announced disruptions of its bus operations today and tomorrow due to a shortage of drivers. The Eastern Cape Safety MEC Xolile Nqata has commended police for the breakthrough in the fatal shooting of 18 people at Ngobazana village in Lusikisiki. A 45-year-old man appeared in the Lusikisiki Magistrates Court on 18 charges of murder and possession of unlicensed firearms yesterday. The UN Human Rights Council has voted to extend its investigation into alleged abuses in Sudan, where a war has displaced 10 million people since last year. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
59 crashing before Reading Interchange seems to be clearing, which is good news. It did cause a backlog right through to Clip River Drive, but traffic seems to be easing. Busy, but easing on that run on the 59 in towards the Reading Interchange area. The Mike 1 stationary track at Crown long since gone, but it's left a big backlog from Boysons all the way through to Parktown this morning. Queues coming in from Boksburg to Joburg, crash at Craft Road. The N12 West really starting to push back towards sort of Rondebolt Road territory. And if driving Pretoria this morning, the N4 again quite heavily backed through Vartamea Street down towards the N1 highway. Lights are off on Solomon Mishlangu at Silver Oaks. If you're coming into that area from Mamelodi, it's quite busy today. Durban, quite a big crash scene on Inanda Road at China Mall, so out of Newlands, queues down through Parlock towards the N2. I've got a crash at the top of Fields Hill. The M13 arriving from Hillcrest into Cluth is pushing a queue back towards Gillets at this stage. Cape Town pretty heavily backed up on the N7, Jakes Herville, Plattercliff Road through Bosmansdam all the way to the N1 highway, and a crash driving in on the N2 just before the airport, causing a backlog as you come in from the sort of airport runway area. A reminder, Mitchell's Plain very heavy, both the M7 and Veldfrieden Drive that run parallel to the M7, both of those routes getting out towards Samora, Michelle and Philippi, heavily backed up, result of some earlier roadworks. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, how do I vote for Ronwen Williams?
You vote for Ronwen Williams for the Ballon d'Or. And
but how?
You go online.
Oh, it's not an SMS.
No.
Okay.
What are you saying? But listen, even though he's leading the votes, by the way.
Really?
But that does not necessarily mean he's going to win. There are other
What is the weight of the cumulative votes in the final outcome? Is it like 50%, 51%?
Yeah, that's a very closely guarded secret, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's one of those.
You know, we're just hoping that our boy wins.
Who sits on that Ballon d'Or committee? We need to,
we need to
have a talk with them.
There needs to be negotiation. He's the African that's putting us on the map. And I mean, listen, he'll be guarding the net come tomorrow. I'm
gonna go onto the website now and see how I vote, and hopefully by the end of your bulletin I'll be done voting.
We vote.
Yeah,
Please,
let me do it.
Let's rally behind this man, Ronwen Williams. He'll be hoping that Bafana can net another victory in front of the home crowd come tomorrow. Bafana are locking horns with the host Congo in an Africa Cup of Nations qualifier. The two teams are in a Group K encounter, all happening at Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. 7 p.m. is the kickoff. Mamelodi Sundowns' #1 goalkeeper has not played in Gqeberha with Bafana since the international friendly match, and that was against Mali in 2019.
Yeah, amazing feeling. It's always good to be home. This is where everything started for me. You know, I once had a dream a few years ago, and I've lived my dream. You know, so I'm just glad that, you know, I'm leading the team now in front of my family, my friends, people that's been on the journey with me. So yeah, I'm just excited for the game.
And Mamelodi Sundowns midfielder Neo Maema has admitted what turned out to be coach Rulani Mokwena's final season at the club coincided with him falling behind the pecking order in the team. Maema has only made one appearance so far under coach Mangoba Ngiti, but says that was due to injuries. He's now reacting to the Carling Knockout Cup draw, where Sundowns will face Golden Arrows after the FIFA break, and he's adamant the Brazilians were hoping to go all the way and not just prioritizing any trophies.
Not that I know of, they haven't told me anything like that. What I know is that we play every game to win, every competition to win, and whether the competition comes before the other one, that's out of our control. All what we can do is take one game at a time, and I think that's going to be a perfect start for us.
Let's go now to this match-winning performance that saw Marizanne Kapp praising her Proteas teammates after their comprehensive 80-run victory over Scotland at the T20 Women's World Cup. South Africa's top-order batters set the tone, with Laura Wolfart and Tasman Brits adding 40 and 43 respectively, followed by Kapp's own quick-fire 43 of 24 balls, propelling the Proteas to 166 for 5. Now in response, Scotland crumbled, managing just 86-run Nonkululeko Mhlaba leading the attack with 3 wickets for 12 runs. And Mhlaba's performance has been a highlight, taking her to the top of the tournament's wicket takers. The Proteas will face Bangladesh next in a must-win match to secure their spot, and that's in the semi-finals. Rugby now. Bulls Director of Rugby Jake White concerned by the volume of rugby South African players, especially those at the Bulls, have to play at the end of the year tour looming. The Springboks are expected to gather in the last week of October for a camp before they depart for the United Kingdom, where they have 3 tests against Scotland at Murrayfield on the 10th of November, England on the 16th of November, and Wales on the 23rd of November. But the last week of October still has United Rugby Championship action for all teams, with the South African sides having a 2 home-away split. And finally, tennis. Novak Djokovic dominating in the match against Roman Safulin at the Shanghai Open, winning in straight sets 6-3, 6-2. The Serb is yet to drop a single set at the tournament this year, and the win improves his quest for a 5th Shanghai Open title and his 100 ATP title. And that's a wrap of your sport.
Do you think Jake White and Rassie Erasmus have beef?
I feel like it's more from Jake White, though. But Rassie is like, yeah,
Do you
whatever,
think Jake White is bitter that he's no longer the most prominent
There
coach?
is that element there. And he's been complaining a lot lately and about the same thing over and over.
But he has a point. He has a valid point, right? I mean, he in the presser, he was like, yo, if I don't play some of these Springboks, many of them are going to go like 12 weeks without any rugby experience. So by the time they, play peak season stuff, they would have been out of loop. Many of them will get a Springbok call-up, but it doesn't guarantee that they will be playing. And also, I just think signing a Springbok player is a financial risk to your franchise, right?
It's a red flag.
Because you have them for like less than half the season, effectively.
Yeah. And if you know this, why are you complaining now, after the fact?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got, 13 Springboks over there. Sharks have about 12. And then the factory down there in the Western Cape, the Stormers, they also have quite a few Springboks that they'll have to rest for a while.
Yeah.
Many of them are on holiday. Did you see that?
In Mauritius, by the way.
Yeah.
It must be nice being in Club
Absolutely
Med
nice.
in the middle of where? October?
Yeah. It's nice for them. 38 minutes after 7.
The Business Update on SAFM.
And Ntaoleng is back with the business update in this hour. Ntaoleng, we start off with Mondi increasing its Europe presence with a new acquisition.
That's right. So in M&A action, Mondi has just sealed a deal with Schumacher Packaging. The group will be acquiring the company's Western European assets for 12.2 billion rands. This acquisition includes 2 advanced box plants in Germany and other facilities. Now, this deal expands Mondi's presence in northwestern Europe, enhancing its position in the European packaging market. And interestingly, this is where it generates most of its revenue and profit. Now, according to CEO Andrew King, the acquisition will boost earnings immediately. It also adds new products used in e-commerce and consumer goods. Mondi's internal expansion plans are progressing well, and the company remains open to future acquisitions. This deal is expected to close in the first half of next year, subject to regulatory approvals. Markets welcomed the news, with the stock closing almost 5% higher in yesterday's trade. But when looking at the share price year to date, it's down over 14%. This mainly due to its overall financial performance. In its last set of earnings, profits declined as Mondi dealt with lower selling prices and higher operating costs.
The JSE might see a delisting.
Now, that's from mining engineering company DRA Global. They plan to delist from the JSE as well as the Australian Stock Exchange, and they're also looking at buying back shares from shareholders. The decision to delist is due to low trading volumes of its shares on both exchanges, which it says makes maintaining the listings no longer financially viable. The delisting and buyback plan will be presented for shareholder approval at a general meeting next month. If approved, shareholders will have the opportunity to sell some or all of their shares at a fixed price of just over $2 or 24.55 per share. This price is slightly higher than the current market price, that share trading at 22.50 on the JSE. DRA's board believes that the costs associated with maintaining the listings outweigh the benefits, and delisting will allow the company to focus on more valuable pursuits. DRA Global is joining a growing list of companies leaving the JSE this year, including Bell Equipment and Sasfin. The JSE has seen a significant decline in listed companies from around 616 in 2000 to 284 at the end of last year. Earlier this year, the JSE launched initiatives to ease the financial strain on smaller listed companies, but it still remains to be seen whether these efforts are effective in retaining those small cap stocks and attracting new listings.
Yeah, that's fascinating. They've lost 2/3 of their listed companies in 2 decades. My goodness. Let's take a look at the economic indicators.
Now, kicking things off in Asia, markets in the green with investors upbeat after China's central bank injected funds into the economy to support major stock buyers, marking one of its big moves to shore up the world's second largest economy. With that, we're seeing Hong Kong's Hang Seng making the biggest gains there, rising 3.8%, followed by the Shanghai Index up 2.6%. Over in Wall Street, futures are flat. Investors are unpacking the latest Fed minutes while eyeing today's inflation print. Back at home, markets closed mixed. Local markets closed before the Fed minutes were released, so really choppy trade at home, with traders taking a wait-and-see approach. The all-share closed 0.1% in the red. The rand also taking a knock, really on track to end the week on a downbeat note. It's trading at 17.63 to the dollar.
Darling, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. Speak to you again in the next hour. Advocate Sipa Mantula standing by with the Africa Update.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Advocate Mantula, good morning. We start out today in Mozambique. Mozambique decides as they went to the polls. What do we have that's new there?
Refreshing morning, Oliver, and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, now it is a counting process, Oliver. We have done the voting. It's going to be a counting and tallying of the election results. Remember that even the diaspora vote that came from Zimbabwe and South Africa yesterday, and as you know that they will only have 15 days to can pronounce the election results, which include both presidential and parliamentary. We are both looking at the 4 candidates and all other members who are vying for 250 seats. But yesterday, you can say there was no many incidents, what you call electoral violence or electoral disputes that has been picked up by the observer missions. We'll also be during this week, Oliver, looking at what does the AU say, what does the SADC say, or the EU in terms of their preliminary observer mission reports in terms of yesterday and today, as we are still on what you call the election results are still trickling. Nobody will tell you, Oliver, where is the wind going? Is it going Renamo way? Is it going Frelimo way, or to the independent candidate?
Yeah. And the Sudanese Rapid Support Forces are accusing Egypt of airstrikes on its troops.
That is a recorded speech that came from Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hemedit, who accuses the government of Egypt for also coming their drones, attacking some of the areas in North Sudan. Remember that the conflict between the Sudanese Rapid Support Force and the Sudanese Army has been going on, and also we have been having proxy countries who are taking sides according to the rebel leaders. Now, this is what has come out yesterday when he's accusing Egypt. And as you know, Egypt has been seen to be on the side of the government, and other governments have been seen on the side of the Rapid Support Forces. This is a long journey, Oliver, when you look at the conflict in North Khartoum or in North Sudan that has been going on.
Yeah, and as we move on to the US, they had cancelled a state visit, a bilateral visit to Angola because of the hurricane.
That is quite true. I heard you talking about these Florida issues and Hurricane Milton, Hurricane Helena that is coming through, but it has affected the first visit of the outgoing President Joe Biden, who was expected to visit Luanda, Angola, between the 13th and the 15th of October. Remember, this visit was a promise that was made in the Africa-US Leaders Summit in 2022. Now, the American government, the secretary, saying that they have now postponed this mission as the President Biden wants to visit the sites that will be affected by this Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helena.
And Gambia, they're evacuating their nationals living in Lebanon.
Oliver, this is also, when you look at the Gambia, it is looking at the conflicts that have been going on in the Middle East. They've been looking at the issues of survival of their own citizens. So they've urged their citizens through the Ministry of International Relations that those who want to be evacuated out of Lebanon, they should visit their embassy. Because as you see, Oliver, when you have conflicts in the Middle East or in Lebanon, African nationals are also the victim of this conflict. The government of the Gambia is saying that for them to avoid this devastating impact and the physical trauma that they will experience, it is better that they can be evacuated and go back home.
And it's on this day in 2005 where Ugandan dictator died here in South Africa.
Yeah, I thought, remember, said it was Uganda independence, but the first Prime Minister of Uganda was Milton Obote. He passed on in South Africa on the 10th of October 2005 at the age of 81. He went through military coups. He had to flee to Tanzania, flee to Zambia, and the last page was in South Africa in 2005. It is within our archive, Oliver, when you think of 30 years of our democracy, that we've been hosting many African presidents, from your Rupia, from your Milton Obote, your Aristide, your Mark Ravalonanan. You see, our 30 years, Oliver, we've been a refugee for the exiled president in the African continent. Asante San, Oliver, as was leading a conversation, SFM, observing the Africa Human Rights Month.
Yep, Advocate Mantula, thank you so much for that. It's 13 minutes to the top of 8.
The ring personnel has been summoned to the Jade International Boxing Festival at Tabamushate in Burgersfort this Friday night. WBF Intercontinental Champion Mzansi's Agani Sambu collides with John Chua of Tanzania, while South Africa's Nosiwakase Dube confronts Chimwemwe Banda of Malawi in the International Female Junior Bantamweight bout. Meanwhile, Sfiso Tongane from Limpopo battles it out with KZN's Kanaiseni Mbogazi in the junior lightweight. Prince Ndlovu clashes with Congolese tough rock Blaise Mujinga. Catch more electrifying bouts of the Jade International Boxing Festival this Friday, 11 October at 7 p.m. Live on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 2 at 10:30 p.m. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
EFC 118 promises to be one of the most scintillating fight nights in recent memory, with two standout matchups. Fresh off his incredible run in The Ultimate Fighter, Rody Rhodes battles for the interim featherweight strap against deadly kickboxing specialist Ayanda Zwane, whilst the co-main event witnesses the return of the one and only Martin the Punisher Van Staden, who takes on fellow veteran Hanru the Bully Boda. EFC 118 from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. The R59 starting to move. We've been keeping a close eye on that this morning with this earlier crash at the Reading interchange, but it looks like it's cleared and the traffic is busy, but it is moving. Major delays if you're coming in from Boxburg and Benoni. Crash on the N12 at Craft Road. Traffic pushing all the way back through to Atlas Road. That looks pretty heavy. You might want to take side roads to the north or south of the N12 highway to just scoot through a bit quicker. The Mike 1 South, a crash at Caller Drive. Very heavy coming through from the N1 Buccleuch interchange, and traffic all over again. The N1 Woody Mandela off-ramps, Woody Mandela through the highway to Bryanston's heavy, and the N1 north, particularly north, but also south backlogging as well. Another morning, another crash on the N14, high crash zone this time of day, Pretoria bound on the Krugersdorp highway. It's happened before Bruckfontein interchange, traffic parking all the way back almost to the Pretoria west exit and looking pretty bad indeed. Durban bound, or Pinetown bound I should say, on the M13, there's been a crash just at the top of Kloof, top of Fields Hill, near the Kloof Golf Course, in from Hillcrest. M13 is very heavy. Still got that serious crash on Inunda Road at China Mall, coming in from Newlands. It stays really heavy down through Parlock and down towards the N2 highway. Cape Town this morning, it's just been a crash on the N2 inbound at the M5, so that's going to keep delays coming through from the Bunga Avenue Langa side. And before you get there, there's also a collision on the N2 inbound near the airport exit, and that's pushing traffic back to the R300. And just a note for motorists driving Eastern Cape today, the N2 between Grahamstown and Fish River Pass will be closed for blasting. The blaster goes off at 3 p.m. That's when they'll close the road, and the contractor is giving themselves a 3-hour window to blast, to clear up and reopen. So you could potentially be looking at 3 p.m. until 6 p.m. full closure of that section of the N2 east of Grahamstown. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Spring is in the air, and it's almost time for SA Garden Day on Sunday, 20 October. Celebrate your garden with a tea party, a luncheon, or simply lying down with a good book. Invite friends, family, or neighbors to appreciate your garden. Visit gardenday.co.za for ideas and inspiration. And remember to upload your flower crown selfie to social media, the ultimate Garden Day accessory. Mark your calendar. SA Garden Day, Sunday, 20 October.
The University of Johannesburg ladies plan to conquer the morning and secure a crucial 3 points for breakfast. But Richmond United believe it is about time for them to rub shoulders with teams in the top half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game, UJ Ladies FC versus Richmond United Ladies FC, on Saturday, 12 October at 9 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
Give us a call, 086 000 2032. You can also send us a WhatsApp voice note on 0614 104 107. Let's go to the lines. Let's speak to JCK in Musina. JCK, good morning. Go for it. Ooh, that line sounds terrible. Let's try that again. JCK, try again. Ooh, not at all, not at all. Let's put you back and see if we can fix that line. Mike in Newlands, good morning. Go for it.
Yeah, hi, good morning, Oliver. Thanks very much. Great show. I just want to comment on your interview with this gentleman called Musa. I must admit I was a little surprised to hear what he had to say. Since when is Hungary far right? I've never heard such nonsense. Hungary is an independent country that allows immigration. What it doesn't allow, and what he didn't seem to understand, is it doesn't allow illegal immigration. And it also does not allow people to come in that are not only properly vetted. The rest of Europe is swamped with illegal immigrants, and he seems to think that that's a European problem. It's not a European problem. That's a Middle East African problem. And the final thing that he seems to fail to understand is that people want to protect their culture. British have a culture, the Germans have a culture, we have a culture. There's no problem in protecting your culture. Oh, and the other thing about protecting wealth, well, I would imagine Germany, Japan, Europe, people that have created wealth for their country would obviously want to protect it. Where's the problem with that? I've never honestly heard such a man who I'd love to hear him again, because clearly he's very confused or just hasn't traveled.
Yeah.
Thanks, Oliver.
Perhaps, Mike, to say this, it is the words of Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the EU Commission, that has expressed worry over Hungary's democratization. Certainly not Musa's claim. He merely gave the analysis around the politics of Hungary. Certainly not his claim originally that it is far right. That is the EU saying that themselves. Thank you so much for your call. Appreciate it. Mike calling us there from Newlands. JCK in Musina. Good morning. Go for it.
Honestly, can you hear me now?
Much, much better.
Thank you. Honestly, to begin with, today it's my birthday today.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. My goodness. How young are you turning today?
I'm 60 now. I'm called Umkhulu manje. I'm going for Mundende. I'm
Yeah.
no more 370 now. I'm going for Mundende now.
Congratulations. I hope you have a fantastic birthday and that it brings you all the joy of your heart.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're
Yeah.
welcome. Yeah, honestly, I would like to talk about the ANC. You know, the ANC wanted to outsmart the National Party and undo everything that was good during apartheid. Let me tell you, Oliver, not everything under apartheid was evil. During apartheid, we used to have a teachers' college, nurses' college, and then while we were at home, there was a car coming or a truck coming, looking for people who are looking for job. You understand? What I'm trying to say is, with correctional services, ANC wanted to be smart. You know, if you can check, Oliver, 3/4 of crimes that are committed now are committed by the people who are from prison. Those people are called, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Yeah, those people are called bandits. You understand? Now, ANC said correctional. There's nothing correctional about those people. All this CIT, everything crime, it's committed by the very people. It's time now the ANC wake up and do the right thing and swallow their pride. Let me rest my case for now. Jessica from Sina.
Thank you so much. Do you agree with Jessica? Give us a call, 086 000 2032. Let's have a listen at this WhatsApp voice note.
Hi, Oliver. Look, man, it's the system. It's the correctional system that we have. We're not paying enough attention to that. Therein lies the problem. The FF guy must come and answer the turnaround strategy for that. They're not correcting anything. They're just making them worse. Thank you, Port St. John's, Noah.
You see, Oliver, this is what we've been complaining about, this parole issue. You see that Sikisiki event whereby a 40-something-year-old man was rearrested in connection with that 18 murdered people. It's the result of this, our poor criminal justice system, actually useless and you see, not caring for its people, the criminal justice system of South Africa. You see, these people have been corrected, the so-called correctional service, blah, 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 blah. They don't care about that, man. They keep on killing us, man, left, right, and center. So therefore, let's go for enough, it's enough. Deterrent measures, Oliver, deterrent measures. That is death penalty, one time, thanks to Willie in Kuma.
Yeah, good morning, Oliver and the listeners. I'm following your conversation about a refugee center in Pretoria. Sometimes if you want to know the truth, you must check with people on the ground. These officials, my brother, they create these scenarios. They will give people appointments after appointments until you will find that the people who are supposed to be served this year, June, they are still going there, they are not served. And there will be so many people desperately looking for documents. That is when they will start making money. It's not because they have shortage of staff. No, they are creating this scenario themselves. They don't help. They don't work. And what they know is to reject people. Whether your interview makes sense or not, they will tell you. Imagine an official telling you that we don't want you in our country. Go. Whether you speak well or not, we don't want you. Go.
Oliver and Fellows FM listeners, good morning. My name is Tulani Nzima in Croydon. Oliver, by now I would have been ecstatic to hear the headlines that goes as follows. DA blinks last after Brinks is ousted. Remember the DA, Helen Zille in particular, said the GNU might fall if the Silas is removed and not reinstated, such as since transpired, where is the GNU and where is Madame Helen Zille? when things have materialized, and we want to hear what's her next move. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. I got a WhatsApp text here. Someone saying, please give us more details on how we vote for Ronwen Williams. I went onto Google and I typed in Ballon d'Or 2014 vote process, and it gave me a link to the website, which is a website with a French URL, www.lequip.fr. It's a bit complicated. However, though, it seems like you can't just vote for Ronwen. You have to vote in each category, and there are about 6 or so categories you have to go through and cast a vote in each of them, which makes it a bit of an onerous process if all you know and want to vote for is Ronwen out of patriotism. He is currently leading the votes. He is nominated alongside 4 other goalkeepers, and he is leading at 64.6%. The person with the second most amount of votes is only at 12.7%. So this definitely seems like South Africans are rallying behind Ronwen. We can get that vote count significantly higher. So do go on, Google it, or in fact, what I'll do is follow me on Twitter. It is at Oliver_speaking, or find me on Facebook, Oliver Dickson. I'm going to post the link that you can click on to cast your vote, and then you'll be able to get Ronwen higher up that, so we can bring back what would be South Africa's very first Ballon d'Or award. I want to tell you this: Essential Cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, Limpopo police officer arrested for insurance fraud and bus services in Tshwane disrupted. Good morning. Police have arrested a fellow officer who allegedly killed 6 people for insurance claims purposes. The officer, stationed at the Senwa Barwana police station in Blouberg in Limpopo, allegedly claimed more than 10 million rand. She had insured the 6 deceased and cashed out upon the alleged murders. The city of Tshwane is asking users of the Tshwane bus services to make alternative travel arrangements. The bus service announced disruptions of its bus operations today and tomorrow due to a shortage of drivers. 31 bus drivers affiliated to Labour Union South African Municipal Workers will be appearing before the city's disciplinary committee for participating in an unprotected strike in May. The city's spokesperson, Salbi Bukaba, says 160 bus routes, which are normally serviced on weekdays, will have 15 less buses on both days.
The shortage will see some of the routes either experiencing delays in the scheduled times or fewer buses, as some of the on-duty drivers will be diverted to the high-volume areas. The following 15 routes will be affected: Villeria 3, West Park 1, 7 and 8, Voortrekker Hoogte, Die Velgers, Linwood Manor, Garsfontein 2, Centurion, Denville, Dorenpoort 2, East Lane 1, Maryfield, Moore-Goedlot 1, and the Orchards 2.
The Eastern Cape Safety MEC Xolile Nqata has commended police for the breakthrough in the fatal shooting of 18 people at Ngobozana village in Lusikisiki. A 45-year-old man appeared in the Lusikisiki Magistrates Court on 18 charges of murder and possession of unlicensed firearms yesterday. The case was remanded to next week for a bail application. The MEC spokesperson Makaya Komisa elaborates.
MEC Nqata commends police for arresting this suspect accused of committing this heinous crime. The Honorable MEC hopes that the arrest of this man will lead to a successful prosecution so that the families of the 18 victims can find closure and justice. The MEC also wants to send a strong message to the criminals that no amount of criminality will deter the government and police from the mission of creating safer communities in the province.
The Limpopo MEC for Social Development, Florence Radzilani, has closed down a private facility for mental health patients outside Louis Trichardt. The Vutlari Disability and Old Age Centre was closed due to alleged non-compliance. The facility has been at the centre of controversy after videos circulated on social media with reports of alleged deaths, abuse and neglect of mental health patients. Radzilani says the patients are being relocated.
The center is non-compliant. It can't continue operating. Mr. Baloy will have to work with us to identify the family members so that our social workers and as the Department of Social Development, we follow up on the matter. We also make sure that those who don't have relatives, those that their relatives cannot be able to take care of them. We've got a number of centers here in the province of Limpopo meant for people like these ones.
Today marks World Mental Health Day, held under the theme "It's time to prioritize mental health in the workplace." The World Health Organization ranks depression as the leading cause of disability and ill health worldwide. Meanwhile, a 2016 study found that lost productivity due to depression-related cost the South African economy an estimated 232 billion rand a year. Member of the South African Society of Psychiatrists, Dr. Siki Gwanyamdleje, says workplace stress can be a significant source of poor mental health.
If we think of South African adults and the proportion that is affected by mental illness, it's estimated that 1 in 3 South African adults will most likely experience a mental health disorder within their lifetime. Alongside this, let's consider the amount of time we spend in the workplace. All right, for employed individuals, most of their waking time is spent within the workplace.
And finally, the UN Human Rights Council has voted to extend its investigation into alleged abuses in Sudan, where a war has displaced 10 million people since last year. The 3 independent rights experts concluded that the Sudanese army and the rival rapid support forces were responsible for large-scale indiscriminate attacks. The RSF leader has accused Egypt Air Force of fighting alongside the Sudanese army and dropping US-made bombs. The Egyptian Foreign Ministry has denied any involvement. Recapping the top story, police have arrested a fellow officer for allegedly killing 6 people for insurance claims purposes. For SAFM News, I'm Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS car to 43187. What's the hype about Outsurance Essential and how is it different to any other car insurance out there? Outsurance Essential is specifically designed and priced for older cars. After an accident, claims are paid in cash so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. And now, Outsurance also offers motor warranty for mechanical and electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS car to 43187. That's car to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just note if you're between Free State and KZN, around Van Riene's village area, on the N3 wondering what's going on, that's a truck crash recovery. The truck crashed earlier this morning, well off the road, but they've decided to do the recovery now. So road closed and traffic stacking both ways, arriving from Swinburne or heading up from Tugela Plaza onto Van Riene's Pass. So big backlogs of traffic. If you're driving that way, maybe a good idea to pull over and have an extended breakfast or a break and set off a bit later once the road has been reopened, the scene cleared and the traffic backlog has moved through. Very heavy on Van Riene's Pass at this stage. Crash coming into Joburg on the N12 just by Craft Road. That traffic heavy from Benoni. Also crash on the Mike 1 before Corler Drive. So coming off the N1 at Buccleuch down through Woodmead and Sandhurst, very heavy. And if you're driving into Pretoria from the northern suburbs, just be aware there's a fatal crash on Eskie and Pathlele approaching Marabastad. Now, given the nature of this is going to be there for a while, traffic is very heavy. Big queues from the Mopati Highway into that, from the Hof into that, Flower into that traffic on Eskie and Pathlele. It's all very busy. Even a big backlog leaving Pretoria heading north into that scene. So do try and stay away and avoid that. Durban, a crash at Fields Hill, top of Fields Hill in the Central Kloof area a bit earlier this morning. Just watch for some delays backing up from Hillcrest as you make your way towards that scene. And Cape Town, a crash on the N2 just around the airport exit, still causing quite a big backlog as you arrive in from the Khayelitsha side. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines soccer action as Bafana will be hosting Congo in an Africa Cup of Nations qualifier match at Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium 7 p.m. tomorrow. And we also bring you rugby news as the Springboks, well, they are considering a R1 billion equity deal. We'll find out what's at stake at around 8:30.
The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It is 9 minutes after 8 o'clock. This is the Morning Brief here on SAFM. Conversations that move us. Coming up on the show in this hour, we're going to be speaking on World Mental Health Day, the 10th of October. But very specifically with a focus on the workplace, because work is a real contributor to stress and poor mental health. Yet good work has the potential to enhance mental well-being. It's a tough balance. Where do you find it? We've entered that time of the year, usually around the fourth quarter of the year, where we're all feeling particularly exhausted, feeling like we're about to burn out. And we call it end-of-year fatigue. But really, it's not just physical fatigue. A lot of it is also just mental exhaustion, which can sometimes, at least in my case, manifest as a deterioration in my overall mental well-being. We're going to be speaking to Dr. Siki Gwanya Mtletje in a very short while as a member of the South African Society of Psychiatrists. October is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You've been hearing the promos on breast cancer awareness here on SAFM throughout the day. And it is important that we shed a light on this. Avon, they have findings from a census that they have conducted. They call it the boob census, and it's groundbreaking global research that reveals concerning trends in breast cancer awareness amongst women. And it highlights the critical importance of early detection in the fight against breast cancer. Dr. Ndumiso Mgomezulu is going to be speaking to us from Avon in this hour as well. I'm taking your calls on 086 000 2032. You can also find us on our WhatsApp line on 0614 104 107. I just tweeted out on my Twitter account the link to where you can vote for Ronwin Williams to win that Ballon d'Or award. Head on over to my Twitter. It is @Oliver_speaking. It's 11 minutes after 8.
Africa from Within follows the journey of our anchor presenters who travel to various locations in order to delve into the inner workings and untold stories of the unsung heroes. At its core, Africa from Within is all about grassroots storytelling and the showcasing of the conservation contributions of ordinary people to Africa. It aims to engage and entertain viewers, educate and promote conservation, and inspire viewers to value our natural heritage. Don't miss Africa from Within on SABC2 every Friday at 7 p.m.
We definitely know what good insurance is. Our insurance don't delay when it comes to any claims. If something happens to one of our vehicles on the road, service delivery is the main thing.
They make sure that you are a satisfied customer from the beginning to the end.
It's definitely a win-win with our insurance.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online. The Blue Sharks want to dive deep and secure 3 points to keep the second position in Group C. While the Zebras of Southern Africa are searching for their first win, they want to escape from the basement. Who will enjoy the final whistle dance of celebration? This is the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Experience the journey to Morocco. Cape Verde versus Botswana on Thursday, 10 October at 6 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Are you feeling it? It's end of year fatigue. You feel more exhausted, you'll go to sleep, but you'll wake up and still feel tired. You're stressed out about work and it seems insurmountable. And that stress often can make you feel reluctant to go to work. You don't get the best out of yourself. You're irritable. Sometimes you feel incredibly depressed. You perhaps would be self-isolating. All of these sort of things have become increasingly common, and the workplace and our work lives are a significant contributor to that. Dr. Siki Gwanyamdletshe, who's a member of the South African Society of Psychiatrists, joins us to talk about this. Dr. Gwanyamdletshe, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. How much of what we consider stresses, perhaps, and perhaps even depression, can be traced to workplace conditions?
Thank you. Thanks for having, and good morning to your listeners. So a lot of the time that we spend as people who are working, we spend in the workplace, right? And much of what we experience as mental health struggle arises from where we spend most of our time, and that's the workplace. This is not to say that the workplace is the only cause for mental health struggles, but within the workplace, we do have interactions with people. And people to people interactions sometimes have those adverse effects of generating stress, of provoking anxiety. Sometimes the culture within the workplaces contributes a lot to the struggles that people face in terms of their workplace, in terms of their mental health. A lot of studies that have been done on depression and anxiety, particularly work-related burnout, have identified that apart from just the load of work, the workload, also the sense of autonomy that a person has within the work that they do contributes to whether or not they develop or end up presenting with burnout. So where you feel that there's a lot of work to be done, because work is good. Work gives us purpose, gives us something to get up and do every day. So good work is good for your mental health. But when you feel out of control, when there are a lot of factors that are not within your control that pertain to the work that you do, where you feel that you kind of have to just show up and work regardless, and your opinion doesn't matter, and your input in terms of what gets done is either ignored or not at all considered. Those kind of situations where there's a sense of helplessness around the work that you do are quite ripe ground for burnout to occur. Depression kind of happens a lot in the context of workplace bullying. So where people in the workplace interact with each other in ways that are not helpful, in ways that don't get actually the results. Because a lot of the time the bullying is supposed to be to get you to work, right? So someone is on top of you all the time expecting you to work, and that is counterproductive, because when you feel heard, when you feel that your opinion actually matters, and you embrace the work that you do, but with a bit of your input as well, actually you get a bit more done, in fact a lot more done.
What are things that workplaces can prioritize immediately as a underlying principle for improving the overall mental health of its people?
So an investment in mental health bears rewards, reaps rewards, both for the individuals in the organization, but for the organization's bottom line as well. So I would encourage leaders within organizations to invest in mental health. A lot of providers do employee assistance programs, and those to an extent are known to be somewhat effective, but they're also equally known to have very low uptake, meaning the investment is not matched with people being directed into the programs, right? So when the people or the leaders within the organizations upskill themselves to know how to identify when someone is struggling mentally, then they know to direct people.
Can I just interject there, right? So if I reach out to my manager and say, look, this is how I'm feeling, this is perhaps I'm feeling burnt out, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling bullied, I'm overworked, I've got anxiety, things just aren't going well, and they say, well, go to HR, and maybe there's even an HR executive in their car listening to this on the way to the office, thinking about who looks like they fit that profile in the workplace. If you give them access to, let's say, counseling and therapy, they may well do that, but if you don't remove the source of it, perhaps a toxic manager, a bully in the workplace, you're not quite solving the problem, and that seems to be a difficult thing to navigate for human resource and people managers.
And this is why mental health does not reside in HR or in the EAP service. Mental health resides within the workspace, within the shop floor, within the offices. So when you as a manager within your space sort of distance yourself, from mental health and say, no, go to HR. It's counterproductive because HR may direct this person to counseling services. They're going to come back to you. They're going to come back to that environment. So the culture within the organization needs to shift.
Just a last question here, and I hope you have an answer for me less than 30 seconds. We're out of time. It's that time of the year, we call it end of year fatigue, and it's a real thing. We know that we need to rest, but I don't think many people know how to rest effectively. Describe to us, give us tools in 30 seconds of how to get good rest.
Okay. Firstly, rest is not limited to the time you're spending asleep. It's not limited to the time you spend on leave. It's important to factor in rest, periods of rest during the day where you take your mind off what you're doing. A good thing could be to distract yourself, to look around the room, appreciate and be present in the moment. So listen for the sounds that you might have been missing because you were busy. Listen to your body. Even consciously, I'm feeling my toes, I'm feeling my legs, I'm feeling my and just what you and how you are interacting with the space around you. Fit in those moments of rest throughout the day, and then the ultimate rest becomes the sleep for the day. The ultimate rest becomes the leave for that time period. But rest becomes important to incorporate throughout the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Smokers are credited if they take a smoke break, but I think you can take a walk break, right? If you can get a smoke break, you can get a 5-minute walk around the block. That's rest. Because in that moment, and as you walk, you're looking around and saying, okay, here's green, great, we have a lovely workspace, and appreciate what's around. Gratitude goes a long way in terms of helping you to ease your mind and to rest.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time and your insights this morning. I really do appreciate it. To Dr. Siki Gwanyamtleje, who is a psychiatrist. It is 20 minutes after 8.
Welcome to the SABC TV License Loyalty Program, where your payment isn't just about paying fees. It's about joining a vibrant community of connected viewers. Ready for the journey? Here's your roadmap. Sign up at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and unlock an instant reward. You'll get an SMS to confirm your registration. Make a 50% or 100% payment to your account for a payment confirmation SMS and a promotional code. Explore our partners' product catalogs for an array of offerings. Receive an SMS voucher for your favorite outlet as the icing on the cake. Don't wait. Dive into a world of benefits. Register now at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments. They make a difference. TUT Matsatsansa ladies are hungry for victory to climb up the ladder, but Royal AM have an incredible game plan to triumph and keep their top half position. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game, TUT Matsatsansa Ladies FC versus Royal AM Ladies on Saturday, 12 October at 11:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. When last have you done a inspection? When last have you spoken about it to your doctor? And how much do you know about it? Early detection is a crucial part of recovery when it comes to breast cancer. Dr. Ndumiso Ngomezulu joins us now, who is with Avon. Dr. Ngomezulu, let's perhaps start here with what the boob census of 2024 revealed that Avon commissioned. What does it tell us about the trends and understanding of breast cancer?
Good morning to you and good morning to your listeners. So thank you so much for calling me doctor. But I'm not doctor yet, but well on my way of becoming a doctor in the academic world. But nonetheless, our Avon group census that we run on an annual basis, because we have quite an interesting thing. So it is run globally, including South Africa as a market that we looked at, was that we saw a global decline in the understanding and rather in the self-examination space around breast cancer. What was quite interesting to see this year as well is that there was also a decline in South Africa in amongst the women surveyed who had seen a health professional for some form of examination or the other. So there's a global decline on self-examination, and in our market we saw that more women are not seeing health professionals around self-examination for breast cancer.
The self-examination guideline is fairly simple, at least if you listen to sort of like the advertisements that were quite popular and common around it on TV and radio in the middle 2000s, right? It told women you can do it yourself at home in your bathroom when you take a shower. But that sort of communication has since died down. Why is that the case?
It sounds quite intuitive, but it's actually a behavior to self-examine. So, whilst communication has died down, we have seen the ripple effect of that the behavior into translation from a behavior point of view, that more and more people are not doing it. I think that the big problem we've got is that we're just not advocating enough, loud enough, and also reaching every single person through particular mediums that we've got. And so which is one of the most important things is to advocate and give access around self-examinations. From an Avon point of view, this is one of the reasons why we're so key on playing in this place and ensuring that we give as much information as possible around how to self-examine, when to self-examine, and how often to self-examine, and what signs to look out for, because this is a race against time.
Yeah, and in South Africa, what do we know about the number of diagnosed people with breast cancer? And often when that diagnosis happens, at what stage of the cancer does it happen?
So what is very unfortunate, and I talk about the race against time, is that in Africa, collectively, because we don't have probably core South African data as a region, but in Africa as a whole, we find that some of the highest breast cancer mortality rates. We find that 70% of women, presenting with breast cancer present at a late stage into health facilities, and so it's quite late to assist and to treat breast cancer. So we've got one of the highest mortality rates with 70% of women presenting with advanced breast cancer stage diagnosis at the time of infection or screening.
And the mortality rate is 70%, you say?
That's when 70% of women present with advanced stage, but one of the highest mortality rates.
Right. And so it means what chances of surviving cancer and beating cancer at early, if it's detected earlier, are much higher typically. Do we know by what multiple?
In our brief census, we weren't able to go as far as understanding by what multiple, but we certainly do know that early detection saves a lot of lives. Currently what we also know is that 5 out of 10 women with breast cancer in Africa will typically not survive because of the late diagnosis. So, if we do diagnose a little bit early and we do screen more frequently, whether it's self-examination or through health facilities, we have a higher chance of catching it earlier and ensuring that we treat at the right point and ensuring that more women are able to live a little bit longer, with the diagnosis and have a quality of life.
Yeah, I mean, while breast cancer disproportionately affects women for obviously physiological reasons, it doesn't leave men unaffected. Does your survey and census touch on any of that?
Unfortunately, our survey hasn't advanced to looking at our male counterparts. we've significantly focused on women. On the one part, because we are a company for women, we were built by, built for women, and we still trade in the direct selling business, and we see that the vast majority of our representatives that sell Avon products are still women. So there was a big focus in women for us, because the core of it was how do we improve the lives of women as a whole. And so we know that we've covered the economic part through the selling part. And the second piece was how do we improve health outcomes to ensure that they're able to, take care of their families. Interestingly, what we find and seeing in South Africa, and I may get my numbers a little bit twisted here, but we certainly know that well over 50% of households, single income households in South Africa are led by women.
Yeah.
And when you look at the stage at which, breast cancer affects women, it's generally around their middle age when they are the sole breadwinners in their households. And so we understood the challenge of not dealing with breast cancer means that you eventually take away living and livelihoods for a number of people because one person has been affected in the household.
Yeah. Absolutely. Ndumiso Mgwamzulu, thank you so much for your time this morning. Appreciate it. Director of Brand and Integrated Communications at Avon. I want to ask you this question, and I want to take your calls on it on the other side of the sports, but I want to ask you this. As you were listening to that conversation I just had a short while ago with Dr. Siki Kwanyamtleche about mental health in the workplace and rest and exhaustion at this time of the year in particular, perhaps you're driving to work as you were listening to that, perhaps feeling deeply and painfully exhausted. Perhaps you find yourself in a toxic work environment. What are some of your thoughts around how you feel empowered or helpless around your workplace situation? Perhaps even how you have overcome it, if you have. I'd love to hear from you. And I think it's a thing we don't often speak about. We shy away from it because we're so grateful for our work opportunities that we try to safeguard it as much as we possibly can, even if it comes to our own detriment. Do you feel exhausted? Do you think you rest well? Do you sleep well? Did you wake up this morning feeling rested? Give me a call, 086 000 2032. I'd love to hear from you. You can also send us a WhatsApp voice on 0614 104 107. Zelma, who was here since, I guess, 3 in the morning, sitting on the technical producer desk, feels very exhausted, she says. It's 8:30. Let's take your latest headlines.
Good morning. Thanks, Oliver. The headlines: a police officer has been arrested for allegedly killing 6 people for insurance claims. The officer allegedly claimed more than 10 million rand. The city of Tshwane is asking users of the Tshwane bus service to make alternative travel arrangements. The bus service announced disruptions of its bus operations today and tomorrow due to a shortage of drivers. And the UN Human Rights Council has voted to extend its investigation into alleged abuses in Sudan, where a war has displaced 10 million people since last year. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy backlogs in and out of Pretoria using Esky and Pathlele. It's a fatal crash at Marabastad. I believe it's on the inbound side, but it's very heavily backed up going outbound as well. So inbound from Mopani Highway, outbound from Pretoria CBD, that section of Esky and Pathlele likely to be backed heavily as it is for some time, given the fact that it's a fatal crash. If you're coming on the Mopani Highway, you might want to go up into Vanderboom Junction and cut back down through Capital Park as your alternative route around that. The other alternative, Bremer onto Trans or Runya down through Dustport Tunnel, is probably equally as heavy as the crash route on Esky and Pathlele. So both routes under real pressure this morning. Crash on Joburg's Mike 1 southbound before Corlett. Traffic still very heavy from the Beclu interchange area. Van Riena's Pass has been reopened. The pass was closed temporarily this morning for truck rash recovery, but it has been opened and traffic backlog starting to move through. Crash between Hillcrest and Fields Hill as you enter Kloof. That's still causing a delay, and all sorts of dramas unfolding in terms of heavy traffic around Spaghetti Junction. There's a crash before Spaghetti Junction going N2 north, and then a breakdown just after Spaghetti Junction. So those two obstructions, plus the roadworks at Westwood Mall, mean the N2 queues from the M7 and queues heavily as well. Cape Town still dealing with that crash on the N2 inbound just by the airport runway. Traffic into that is backing up as far as the R300s. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, is the stadium in Gqeberha sold out yet?
Oh, not yet, but we're hoping the You know us, we're lastminute.com, but
Yeah,
we'll get there.
I saw ticket prices on Twitter the other day. It's like, what, 50 Rand, and it ranges around there?
For a family of 4, you're looking at about 200 Rand. Middle of the month, is that the fact that we have less disposable income, that we can't buy those tickets? Come on.
Yeah, it is a bit of a terrible timetable.
It is.
But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And I really do hope that the stadium sells out.
I can see you got your vuvuzela ready.
I do.
Bafana needs all the support they can get, Oliver. Let's pack the stadium tomorrow, make Nelson Mandela Bay rock, and we can help Bafana secure those 6 points and keep the AFCON dream alive, which is what Bafana captain Ronwen Williams wants to do. Looking forward to playing in front of his home crowd in Gqeberha tomorrow, and 7 p.m. is the kickoff. You can catch it live on SABC Sport. Now, Williams is the nominee for the Ballon d'Or Yashin Trophy as a top 10 goalkeeper globally, and he wants to thank South Africa and Africa at large for rallying behind him.
Obviously there's been a link shared, but I think we need to correct the statement that's been going around. It's not solely based on votes only. There is a judging panel, and I think they will have the final say, but I think the votes can maybe sway the decision as well, because that's why they opened the platform for the votes. So, yeah, I'm just happy, that the country is behind me now. I've seen the growth, especially in the voting. And, when we get together as a country, it's amazing. And it's not about Ronwen Williams. It's about, the young kids that I'm seeing outside here, and to inspire them to dream big, And, yeah, I'm just proud and happy that, as South Africans, we're standing behind our own.
Elsewhere, we've got Jurgen Klopp signing a long-term contract to become Red Bull's new head of global soccer. Months after leaving Liverpool, Klopp will be responsible for the management of RB Leipzig, Red Bull Salzburg and the New York Red Bulls, 2 clubs in Brazil and a third-tier Japanese side.
Then I want to learn again, because when you're in the job and you have to play every 3 days, you barely have time for that. And now I have time and I have the opportunity. And I want to see and feel and figure out what is useful for football. So developing football a little bit as well. I said, really looking forward to it. But now I go back on holiday.
Now moving to cricket, Marizanne Kapp praising her Proteas teammates for their 80-run victory over Scotland at the T20 Women's World Cup. And rugby, in a landmark decision, SA Rugby will soon vote on a private equity deal that could inject over 1.3 billion rand into the Springbok brand. Now next week, the SARU Council will meet to decide whether to accept a 20% stake offer from a private investment company. This deal aims to take the Springboks global, following a similar model to New Zealand Rugby. And finally, Novak Djokovic in tennis action dominated Roman Safiullin at the Shanghai Open, winning 6-3, 6-2. The Serb is yet to drop a single set in the tournament this year. It also means he reaches his 95th Masters 1000 quarterfinal in his career. He will face Jakub Mensik in the quarterfinal later today. And that's how we wrap up sport on the morning brief. We'll bring you more sport on SFM around 12:30 with John Gericke. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
And Ntaleng is back this morning with the business update, our final one for the morning. Ntaleng, we start with Transnet's Durban port. There's a deal that has been put on hold by court order. What happened?
So the High Court in Durban hitting the brakes on a major deal between Transnet and Philippines-based Group International Container Terminal Services Incorporated. The deal worth 11 billion rand was for the management of Durban's busiest port terminal. The court, however, found serious flaws in the procurement process, specifically that Transnet allowed ICTSI to use its market value to meet solvency requirements despite internal and expert advice against it. Now, this came to light after Maersk's terminal operating unit, which was among the unsuccessful bidders, challenged the award. It says ICTSI was the only bidder that used its market capitalization to meet the solvency requirements for the tender. This decision has implications for President Ramaphosa's plans to revive SOEs and the economy. The court's ruling also raises concerns about governance at Transnet, a crucial part of the country's logistics infrastructure. The Durban Container Terminal Pier 2 project is a vital for economic stability and growth, handling 72% of the Port of Durban's throughput and 46% of South Africa's port traffic. Now, many analysts say this ruling may stall Ramaphosa's efforts to attract private sector investment into SOEs.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. And I mean, this is precedent setting given the reforms that are taking place at Transnet at the moment. If they don't get this right, they'll struggle with the other ports. This is a really sad one and a tricky one. Drip Footwear is being ordered to go into liquidation following owing one of its advertisers over 20 million rand.
That's right. The company was ordered to liquidate by the High Court in Johannesburg after failing to pay advertising agency Wide Open Platform 20 million rands for services rendered. This decision has resulted in the immediate termination of employment contracts for its workforce and the closure of 14 stores nationwide. Now, despite its promising start in 2019, Drip Footwear, founded by Lekao Sihowana, encountered financial difficulties in the past few months, and the Reserve Bank added to those troubles, withholding about 3.6 million rand for the firm over foreign exchange violations. Now, that decision caught the attention of the Gauteng government, with the MPC for Economic Development, Lebogang Maile, calling on the SARB to reconsider its move. This development has also sparked concerns about the potential impacts that such decisions from regulators have on small businesses. Maile argues that small businesses like Drip should not be penalized without the opportunity to learn and comply with regulatory frameworks. Now, Drip Footwear, one of many businesses battling under the pressure in the country. According to Stats SA's recent data, the total number of liquidations year to date have breached 1,000, with 1,020 businesses shutting down so far this year.
Yeah, that's very, very unfortunate. It is one of those sad moments when you see a company that employs so many people that had such a bright future having to go in liquidation. I hope this is not the end of the road for Lekao. Let's take a look at those market indicators. It's 20 minutes before the markets open.
Put a spring in your step with the Espresso Morning Show.
That's right. Join us for fresh ideas, blooming trends, and vibrant tunes that are sure to brighten your day.
Discover the best ways to enjoy this season's beauty, from garden tips to spring fashion.
Come on now. Plus, get inspired with lively interviews and my favorite, the latest in entertainment.
Basically, start your mornings right with us. That's weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. only on S3.
EFC 118 promises to be one of the most scintillating fight nights in recent memory, with two standout matchups. Fresh off his incredible run in The Ultimate Fighter, Rody Roots battles for the interim featherweight strap against deadly kickboxing specialist Ayanda Zwane, whilst the co-main event witnesses the return of the one and only Martin the Punisher Van Staden, who takes on fellow veteran Hanru the Bully Boda. EFC 118 from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Give us a call, 086 000 2032. I'd love to hear from you. You can also send us a WhatsApp voice note on 0614 104 107. 0614 104 107. So we've just come to realize that the Ballon d'Or voting happens on two different websites in two different languages. One is in English and one is in French. I had initially voted on the English website, where Ronwen Williams is leading in the vote tally. 64% is what he's leading there by. But then Mdu brought it to my attention that, in fact, in the French website, he's not leading at all. In fact, there it seems to be that he's not even in contention. So please go onto the French website as well and vote there because we don't know what the weight of the votes of the two different websites will be, and of course what the cumulative tally of all the votes would be on the different websites. Please do that. It's a bit difficult. I don't speak and can't read French, but I tried my best. Let's take your call, 086-000-2032. You can also send us a WhatsApp voice note on 0614-104-107. Katu in Limpopo, you want to comment on cultural preservations to what Mike in Newlands perhaps had said in the earlier voice note we had.
How are you?
Go ahead.
It's very depressing to advocate for cultural diversity while at the same time one needs to say, I keep my culture constant, because culture evolves. Immediately when we have a person saying, I want the territorial so that I can practice and preserve my culture, we are creating small Israel and small Gazas within our South African borders. Remember, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of culture evolves with time. I mean, when you cross to Gauteng, you adjust to the Gauteng lifestyle because you have traveled from Limpopo, where you have left your culture, then you are going to practice something new, which is Gauteng lifestyle. When you go from Gauteng going to KZN, obviously you'll adapt. So you, in a way, you'll have a new culture in you, which is adaptation.
Can I perhaps that sort of assimilation is very common, right? And in South Africa, I don't think we see much problem with that. But in Europe, and this is the real fear, the paranoia of Europe is that with all these Asians and Africans coming into the country, quite literally starting families, marrying Europeans that they find there, building families with them, having multiracial children, they worry about the future of the Europe-Caucasian race. It's a real fear and anxiety that they have, and there's significant research data out on that, right? And so when they talk about cultural preservation, it's really about the preservation of the Aryan Caucasian I guess, bloodline, so to speak, and that is what they fear over time will dissipate. And, you know, when you go to parts of Europe and you look around and you're like, wow, this is not as white as it used to be. It's a lot more cosmopolitan. It's a lot more representative of the world, but also it's a lot more representative of the countries you had colonized previously that now have refugees in your country. And I think that's where that cultural preservation fear stems from.
Commonology of bloodline, Oliver. Even us, some of us within Limpopo, we know for a fact that we're descended from African origin, especially at the Central Africa. But we here in South Africa, and already some of us have adjusted to be the Tsongas, the Pedis, the Ndebeles, and the Ngunis, and so forth. We know our bloodline from the Central Africa, even coming to South Africa. So there is nothing wrong with the color pigmentations changing, but the bloodline remaining the same.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
no problem with that.
Katu, thanks a lot for your call. So I am going to have to leave it there. Really do appreciate it. Let's go to Churchwell in Mtata. Churchwell, good morning. Go for it.
Good morning, Oliver. Look, man, I wanted to talk about this instability that is being caused by these motions of low confidence in our country, especially in politics. And you know, our people bear the brunt. The taxpayers, you know, the ratepayers and so on, they bear the brunt. And it's quite concerning. And I think Parliament must move very fast to design a tool of actually making sure that those that are being removed are removed on the basis of their performance. Because as it were now, you'd find, I'll make an example of what has happened in Tshwane. You know, you'd find that you never know the next move that is going to be struck by the DA, you know, in another municipality. And who suffers the most is our people. We can't continue in this trajectory. It's really sad, honestly speaking, because we're never going to see service delivery.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't know when this one is going to last, how long this one is going to last, and we don't know the next move that's going to be struck by the DA.
Yeah. Jojo, thank you so much for your call. Appreciate it. Mvusi Wekaya and Bisho, good morning. Go for it.
Thanks, man. Look, regarding your interview with the meat representative of the meat importers, I want to say two things. The second thing I want to say is I would like to propose that you guys invite or interview our colleagues who work for the Department of Agriculture who deal with this issue of imports, because the requirement is a legislated requirement that any meat product that comes into the country must be looked by veterinary services.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this because in my province, I work for the provincial department here in the Eastern Cape. Whenever there is export of animals or meat, we do the same checks. We make sure that people comply because the countries where these products are sent to, they've got the similar requirements. And all this is done to control diseases. Even if you import live animals, they're going to sit somewhere in a farm for 30 days. And they're monitored to make sure that they don't have these animals.
When it's live animals, Mvusiwe Khaya, I can understand that, right? But here we're talking about meat that had it's not live animals, right? And I understand the need for disease control and testing in relation to that. What seems to have been the practice is that they test a sample size of the batch that is to be exported. And that usually gives you an indication whether or not that's a contaminated or a diseased batch or not. Sample sizes usually are sufficient. But they insist, as I spoke to the person earlier that says, arbitrarily they would decide to test 80% of the export or sometimes even 100% of the export. And that's what causes the delay. I don't think they're calling for testing to not happen at all.
Yeah, look, my issue is we need to get the perspective of the department that deals with it, because the national department has got a responsibility, and the process starts earlier than the arrival of the consignment. So getting those people from the national department is going to help, and I think we should appreciate when government entities are improving the work they do, when they focus on this, because this is to protect the same consumers. And I think the importers really need to work faster with the department. They need to make sure that they do everything on time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to wait until late.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Mvusiwe Khaya calling us there from Bisho. William in Tembisa, Peter in Northam, and Justin in Durban. I see your calls. I'll be coming to you very shortly. Let's take your latest traffic.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Very heavy delays in and out of Pretoria on SKM Paflavi. A fatal crash between Vanderhof and Marabastad. If you're looking for alternative routes, particularly from the north heading into Pretoria CBD, avoid Bremer and Transarania. The run through the Dustport Tunnel is also heavily backed up. So you've got really big delays coming through the tunnel and really big delays into that fatal crash down by Marabastad area. Still dealing with the crash on the Mike 1 South around Caller Drive. Traffic very slow coming off the N1 through Buccleuch. There's also been a crash on the R21 South near Ford Trekker Road. So if you're approaching the airport, that's your second delay. The first delay is the roadworks at the Benoni off-ramp, and then you'll hit that crash. And there's also the roadworks going north by the Benoni off-ramp for motorists that are leaving the airport towards Pretoria. Crash at Kloof, just outside Durban. That's all cleared. M13 moving nicely. Crash in a stationary truck both sides of Spaghetti Junction. The N2 North remains under quite big pressure today. And Cape Town, we've been keeping an eye on this collision into Intertown just by the airport exit. That is still causing a delay as far back as the R300. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The 2024 Health Excellence Awards, hosted by Cliniques Health Group and the South African Clinician Scientist Society, is calling for nominations. This is your chance to recognize exceptional doctors, specialists, and medical professionals who are making an impact. The celebration of the 4th Annual Health Excellence Awards will take place on 16 November 2024 at Emperor's Palace in Johannesburg. Visit www.healthexcellenceawards.co.za to enter your nomination before 20 October 2024.
The Stallions get it that the only way to remain on top of Group L is through a win. However, the Swallows refuse to be left behind. They target a second victory to move away from the third position. This is the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Experience the journey to Morocco, Burkina Faso versus Burundi on Thursday, 10 October at 9 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
8 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm taking your call. 086 000 2032. William in Tembisa, good morning. Go for it.
You know, I have a problem with the guy who owns Strip. Now, this guy recently has been on media, and he was at Kaya FM. He was speaking about his business doing well and partnering with other sports owners of sports in terms of sports area and whatsoever. Now, all of a sudden, when the wife goes on public platform and declaring the divorce and whatsoever, now all of a sudden the guy filed for liquidation. I don't buy into the story.
No. He certainly didn't file for liquidation. He was ordered to liquidate after an application by the service provider that he owed money.
But don't you think they are playing something here?
He opposed the liquidation order, by the way, the liquidation application.
But don't you think?
Look, I don't know if those two things are related. I'm not sure that somebody would want to liquidate a company. By the way, liquidation is a painful process. Oftentimes the shareholders and directors come out of it with nothing at the end, because it is the people they owe money that get the benefit of the liquidation, right? Because they are recovering their debt. So I don't think this is to hide from a divorce settlement whatsoever. Look, I don't know enough to make a value judgment about this. Much like you, we perhaps are speculating about it, but it certainly, there's no logical link between the two incidents for me.
No. If that's the case, then, because my understanding was that, actually not my understanding, my perception is that if this man 3 months back was on the media and saying this thing, and he knew that he owes the service providers, I don't buy into that story, because 3 months you were on Kaya FM and speaking how your business is doing well. All of a sudden you owe your service provider 20 million. So by then 3 months back, you didn't know about these debts that you are accumulating.
Okay, William, thank you so much for your call. Appreciate it. Let's speak to Justin in Durban. Justin, good morning.
Oliver, morning. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Go ahead.
Oliver, I just wanted to say, you know, it's embarrassing how we've become a society that is so used to children dying from these buzzer shops. And it's embarrassing how our leaders have gotten used to hopping from house to house, you know, giving condolences to families, you know, that stem from a problem that we should have fixed a long time ago. You see, the problem that we're having right now is that this sector, these buzzer shops are not regulated. You know, I was so upset yesterday. I spoke to Bertha, you know, telling me how, you know, I've come up with a solution to regulate and manage and actually audit each and every item that is on the shelves of these buzzer shops. You know, I came up with that system. I designed that system. And, you know, what I would like to do now is to, you know, get it out there so that it can be used, because we don't want another
Give us an elevator pitch of what the system is. We don't have much time, but hopefully you can in a couple of seconds. Go for it.
And that is what I said to Peter yesterday. I said, you know, what I prefer to do, Oliver, is to sit down with relevant people so that I can give them a highlight of what the system does. I don't mind to come back to your show, you know, at any given time. Once, you know, I've spoken to the right people so that we can get it out there. Then we can discuss it on the radio. But what I want right now is to never have a situation where we have kids dying, you know, because this is going to happen again. It's been happening, Oliver, and it's so upsetting. You don't have enough time, Oliver, I know, and I want the listeners out there to know that there is something like this that I've designed, I want to get out there.
Peter, thank you so much for that call. I hope Justin, I hope you and I can have that conversation extensively. Appreciate it. Peter in Northam, go for it. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Oliver. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. Go right ahead.
All right, yes. I want to speak to you about the recent lady you was talking to regarding the business stuff. You know, she was talking about the liquidation and stuff like that. At the end of the show, she was talking about there are about 1,000 companies that are on liquidation, as far as I know. But she didn't actually, you know, I'm so curious to know actually what kind of business are they applying for liquidation, or are they in liquidation? You know, if she can next time maybe try to
analyze them a little bit more to know which companies, I mean not companies, which categories
which sectors seem to be the most.
I think it will be much better. And I'm sorry for the guy of Odripwe. I mean, he's one of our African brothers. We understand the problem.
Yeah. You know what I'll do? In fact, I'm going to send Jimmy Muyaya of MoneyWeb a text, and please listen to his show. Hopefully, over the next couple of days, he'll be able to have an extensive conversation on the MoneyWeb market update here on SAFM at 6 p.m. On liquidations, and so we can get a better sense of it. Perhaps also to speak to a liquidation lawyer to get their views on how it is that companies go into liquidation and what the processes are. But thanks a lot for that, Peter. I appreciate your curiosity.
No, have a lovely day.
Peter calling us there from Northam. Let's have a listen at some of your WhatsApp voice notes that has come through on our WhatsApp line here this morning on SAFM.
Good morning. I feel that when you tell your manager that you are overwhelmed, the answer is we're all overwhelmed. It's basically carry on. But also another thing I believe is that many of the companies have these wellness programs within the company, and that is just for a tick box exercise. So I don't think it helps. I've heard many stories here in Cape Town, and it's really worrying that companies really don't care. It's all about production. Teresa, Cape Town.
Teresa, thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much to you for listening. From myself and the team, it is goodbye. It was a fantastic show. I'm back with you tomorrow. Once again, standing in this week for the Friday edition of the show. So please do join us at exactly 9 a.m., exactly 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. My goodness, it's 9 a.m. right now. Lost all sense of time. I want to leave you with this. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS car to 43187 now. And of course, you can catch that on the other side, where we'll tell you more about what some of the covers are that Outsurance gives you, like 1 million rand liability cover. That means that if you cause an accident, you get covered for that. And of course, there are some prerequisites and stipulations on which vehicles qualify for that. From myself and the team, once again, myself, Oliver Dickson, Zelma, Melissa, as well as Umdu, we'll back with you tomorrow morning. Please, again, do join us for that. Up next, it is Kathy Mutlatlana. It is 9 o'clock.
In our top stories, a Limpopo police officer arrested for insurance fraud and the Senzomehiwa murder trial to resume. Good morning. A Limpopo police officer arrested in connection with the deaths of 6 people for insurance claims is also facing 17 counts of fraud. The officer stationed at the Senwa Barwana police station in Blouberg, Limpopo, was arrested earlier today. She allegedly collected more than 10 million rand in the killing spree that started in 2019. All the deceased were known to her. Police spokesperson Athlanda Mate says the suspect will appear before the Polokwane Magistrates Court tomorrow.
We were approached as the SAPS on allegations that one of our own was involved in insurance-related murders. The victims were known to her. They were mostly from destitute, disadvantaged and underprivileged backgrounds, and they trusted her. She pocketed at least 10 million. She's being linked now to about 6 murders. She is facing about 17 counts of fraud. She is expected